Events and discussions will prove it to be very worthwhile. I'm really honored to have the responsibility of moderating today's event. My name is Simon Pickard. I'm the Network Director for Science Business, a media company based in Brussels. And first of all, I would also like to thank you for taking the time to be with us on this momentous day, and also to our audience who are joining us online from different parts of Europe and beyond. So a very warm welcome to you all. Why are we here? Primarily, celebration. We're here to celebrate a milestone, not a final destination. This is part of the journey for Destination Earth and the core partners who have been behind its conceptualization, its development, and now the period of its delivery. It's a celebration of the fact that through Destination Earth, the European Commission, European Space Agency, European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasts, and the European Organization for the Exploitation of Meteorological Satellites have created something of great potential. Great potential not just for Europe, but great potential for actors all around the world who take seriously the challenge of combating climate change and its impacts, including extreme weather and other ripple effects that are changing society day by day. So in that sense, it is a celebration of a European vision and leadership, and it's a celebration that Destination Earth is something that will contribute to the greater good, the public good, something that will be accessible for the many and not just for the few. And so, in celebrating, today's agenda combines the past, the present, and the future. We have 3 panel sessions that are going to explore aspects of the journey until today, Destination Earth's development. We're going to have a discussion about its value and its impact on users and other scientific organizations who now have an incredible resource at their fingertips. And then we're going to look ahead and see how Destination Earth, in combination with artificial intelligence technologies, may reinforce Europe's scientific and industrial leadership in the years to come. But before we get onto that, I'm delighted to welcome 3 eminent speakers to help us set the context for today's event, to lay some important foundations for the discussions to follow. These are from your left to your right, Kimmo Koski, Managing Director of CSC IT Center for Science in Finland, who's very kindly hosting us with colleagues today. Margrethe Vestager, the Executive Vice President of Europe Fit for a Digital Age and Commissioner for Competition at the European Commission. And last but by no means least, Arto Satonen, the Minister for Employment of the Government of Finland. Thank you very much for being with us, honored guests. I'm now going to give the floor to Kimmo Koski to formally welcome us and to open the event.
Dear Vice President Vestager, dear Minister Satonen, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to CSC's Kajaani Data Center for the Destination Earth launch event. As you probably know, and those joining us in person here in Kajaani today have seen with their own eyes, now this is the home of LUMI, one of the fastest and greenest supercomputers in the world, and one of the computing platforms used for Destination Earth project. So, Destination Earth is about developing a highly accurate digital model of the Earth to enable monitoring, simulating, and predicting the interaction between natural phenomena and human activities. This requires combining vast amounts of data from various sources, which in turn requires exceptional computing power, the kind that only the likes of LUMI can provide. It is safe to say that Destination Earth would not be possible without state-of-the-art supercomputers like LUMI, so I must thank and congratulate the European Commission for initiating the idea of developing European high-performance computing capacity as a joint effort. This has led to the creation of the Euro-HPC joint undertaking and acquisition of several pan-European supercomputers, of which 3, including LUMI, have made it to the top 10 of the fastest supercomputers in the world. This is a clear demonstration of the power of European cooperation. of what we can achieve when we join our forces and work together for the greater good. While it is fantastic to have such a powerful supercomputers in Europe, the most fantastic part of it all is the research and innovation these machines enable. Destination Earth is a particularly inspiring example, but no means the only one, of LUMI's remarkable computing power has also been used to, for example, improve cancer diagnostics, search novel strategies for Alzheimer's disease, discover and design new materials, and explore the opportunities of emerging technologies with potential for game-changing societal impact, such as quantum computing, for example. LUMI is also one of the most powerful AI platforms in the world, enabling AI-enhanced research as well as development of large language models that provide the foundation for further European AI innovation. So supercomputers, they don't operate in a vacuum. They need data as the raw material of the calculations. Benefit from being enhanced by new technologies like AI and quantum and must be connected to their users and data sources by high-speed telecommunication networks. Perhaps most importantly, they need competent users who have innovative ideas for data-based value creation and know how to harness different digital infrastructures and technologies to serve their ideas. By bringing all these elements together and creating ecosystems of digital capacities and competencies at European scale, we enable RDI efforts that help us to answer complex global societal challenges. Destination Earth is a prime example of the kind of success we can achieve when data, computing, AI, connectivity, and people work together in an optimal way. If you look around the room we are right now, you will see that not everything here is brand new. Indeed, LUMI is located in the premises of the former paper mill. Using this kind of repurposed building allows us to reduce the need for new construction materials to the extent that the carbon footprint of the construction project was 80% smaller than it would have been in case of completely new building. Indeed, LUMI has been a remarkable green supercomputer starting from the construction phase of its data center. So, LUMI continues to operate in an exceptionally sustainable way. Thanks to the abundant local sources of renewable energy, we can power the supercomputer with entirely carbon-neutral electricity. The cool climate of Kajaani reduces the need of the energy to cool the device and increases the demand for LUMI's waste heat to heat up local households. The waste heat is indeed recycled to the local district heating network, reducing the need to provide heating through other energy sources and thereby bringing LUMI's carbon footprint practically even below zero. In addition to small or even negative carbon footprint, LUMI also has a significant carbon handprint, meaning positive impact on climate and environment. This comes through initiatives like Destination Earth that use LUMI's computing power for impactful climate research and policy making. We are very happy and proud to be a part of Destination Earth and look forward to continuing to play a key role in this flagship initiative for a sustainable future. So, with these words, I wish you a great day here in Kajaani, filled with interesting discussions and inspiring encounters. Thank you.
Kimmo, thank you very much for those warm words of welcome and, of course, for all of the efforts that you and your team have put into hosting today's wonderful event. I forgot one other celebration. Speed. We hear a great deal about this in many different policy and research circles, the need for speed. I think we should be celebrating today the progress that's been made in a remarkably short period of time for Destination Earth to get from the vision and the idea to where we are today. And anybody who's familiar with EU-funded projects will know that this is groundbreaking, that we're talking about 2.5 years, not 2.5 decades. So I think we are rightly celebrating something that the European Commission can consider part of its legacy from its last mandate, and who better than Executive Vice President Vestager to tell us a little more about what this means. Executive Vice President, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for hosting this wonderful event. You have made it, I think, truly festive as it should be. And it's also extraordinary because what we get today is a chance to look at the future in the making. And when coming here, seeing the extraordinary potential of Destination Earth, one of the things that comes to mind was what Tim Berners-Lee said, one of the founders of the internet, that the future is much bigger than the past. Destination Earth is different. It's different from any other Earth modeling exercise. And it will make a lot of things just bigger. It will help bring our capacity to fight climate change to a completely new level. It will place climate data and predicting tools in the hands of many, many more people who cannot escape their responsibility of acting with the tools they get. And it will strengthen Europe's leadership when it comes to climate technology. First, I think that Destination Earth is one of the most advanced examples of how technology can help us fight climate change. For years, we have talked about the twin digital and green transition. Well, this is the twin transition. Destination Earth combines what we do best in digital technologies for our supercomputers, high-speed connectivity networks, expertise in artificial intelligence, and what we do best in science, like all the Earth system knowledge, the physics, all of that, and of course in computer science. And all of this to enable us to maintain that we can live on this planet. It makes our lives better. It increases the probability that we'll also get it right when it comes to biodiversity. As it has already been proven, it is really disturbing that 2023 was indeed the hottest year on record. Victims of climate change, actually we see them everywhere. And every loss of life, of course, is devastating, but the numbers, they're just piling up. We are approaching the first day of European remembrance for victims of climate change. It's not theory, it's a real thing, family losing their loved ones. So our responsibility is actually quite simple: to keep our promises. We made a promise to keep global warming under a certain level, well, actually to the level that we have achieved today, but also to make sure that our European continent is carbon neutral by 2050. And keeping promises is the most fundamental responsibility that you can have if you want people to trust in their society. For years, we have used our existing tools to monitor, to raise awareness on climate change, on natural disasters. And I'm thinking about the impressive, important services that Copernicus has been providing through years of wildfires and floods. We can really not do without it. The tool for those who help out in those situations, it's essential, it's life-saving. It allows us, but now, of course, we need more than real-time observation. We need to be able to predict in order to be prepared, in order to take action that is effective. And that is what Destination Earth is giving us. Because it allows us to zoom in from outside looking at our planets, from hundreds of kilometers of resolution to only a few kilometers to see what is actually ongoing. and sometimes even just a few hundred meters from localized extreme events. And one doesn't need to be a scientist to understand that when we can zoom in that close, well, we have a lot more data available and we can much better simulate future climate scenarios. And this is why this tool is so powerful. We could monitor, now we can predict. So instead of solve or making up, we can actually protect, we can plan, we can save lives, we can enable nature. And there are many people for whom this will be extremely useful. This is really not for the few. And that leads me to my second point, because Destination Earth places a tool in the hands of people in a wide community, both local, European policy and decision makers, both scientists and non-experts. National and local authorities, they can use the core platform to constantly monitor what is actually happening locally. And I know quite many mayors who will be really happy to get a much better way to control the riverbanks of their cities and to assess the probability of floods. It will also help us within European institutions to test some of our legislative solutions that we propose when we make the Green Deal come to life. And of course, this is a major tool for our scientific community. The digital twins will enable scientists to test scenarios on so many different indicators: biodiversity, soil, and oceans. But that is not all. Destination Earth will be available to the public, to people that hear every day about the threats to our planet, but maybe sort of fail to or struggle to get a clear picture of what does this actually mean. Well, they can see it live on their screens. They will better understand the complex interaction between the environment, between us as humans, in how the future of our planet is being shaped. Finally, the story of Destination Earth is also the story of Europe's technological leadership. It's a story about cooperation. If I had mentioned all the people I ought to thank before I started this speech, I wouldn't have started this speech by now. Because there's so many entities, organizations, and people to thank for this. And that, of course, is the magic. When the immense compute capacity of LUMI comes together with people with a passion for making this. And of course, I'd like to thank our host today and praise the Finnish IT Center for Science that operates LUMI and leads the consortium that implements the digital twin on climate change adaptation. Your work is not just unprecedented, we cannot do without it. So, thank you. With now 3 pre-exascale supercomputers and 2 soon-to-come new exascale supercomputers, Europe has nothing to envy the rest of the world. So, it has been only 5 years since the creation of Euro-HPC joint undertaking, but it has already established Europe as a world-leading region in high-performance computing, operating a public computing infrastructure that is absolutely unique. Also because it's unique in the ecosystem it creates with the people operating it. And that is the magic. Beyond Destination Earth, those supercomputers are also fueling Europe's digital economy and Europe's capacity to lead in artificial intelligence. And we need those kind of computers to build European generative AI models. We need computers like these to enable our young digital startups to grow in Europe. And this is why we recently agreed to find ways to open this system for those with the greatest idea, but with very little access, so that we can get to a situation where it is not a paper mill, it's an AI factory. It's not a chapel, it's an AI factory. It's not a tobacco plant, it's an AI factory. And in order to get there, of course, we need the magic of people. So we're doing nothing less than creating a foundational model, sort of a ChatGPT for the Earth system, useful for a myriad of applications in areas such as urban health, renewable energy management, or agricultural planning. In exchange, Destination Earth will also support and benefit from the development of new large language model by integrating them in their system. So, a positive loop. Dear friends, it's not that often that one gets a sneak peek into the future. Today, thanks to all of you, this is what we get. And this is just the start of a much larger journey. The first 2 digital twins will be joined by many more twins over the next years, building up the full digital twin of Earth, piece by piece, twin by twin, till we get to the end of this decade. And those will cover oceans, biodiversity, geophysical phenomena, soil, many, many more research areas. And with every year passing, with every more insight being gained, we can deliver new solutions. We can implement new solutions because we have a much better idea as to how it will actually work. And this means that today we're one step closer to do what is the bare minimum to keep our promises so that citizens can trust that the society is there for them, looking out for the planet, for the biodiversity, and for the human being living there. So thank you very much to everyone involved.
Thank you, as always, Commissioner, and congratulations once again for all of the hard work that's brought us to this point. I really appreciated the Tim Berners-Lee quote about the, if you like, the disparate scale, the potential of the future versus the size of the past. It seems to me that's a very good way to describe Finnish strategy on research and innovation over the past couple of decades, an understanding that the potential of the future, and in particular in digital technologies, artificial intelligence and similar, was something that could bring great benefit to the country, its citizens. And so I think it is worth acknowledging that for successive governments, Finnish policy has helped to create the kind of landscape, the mindset, and the approach to science, technology, and innovation that has allowed organizations like CSC, Aalto University, and others to flourish and to have this magnificent infrastructure in which we find ourselves for today's event. So on that note, it's my pleasure to invite Minister Satonen to join us and to share some perspectives on behalf of the government. Minister, the floor is yours.
Vice President of the Commission, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be present here in Kajaani today and to deliver an opening speech at this exciting launch event. This event is made possible thanks to the European LUMI Supercomputer, which provides excellent computing and data resources to the research and innovation community across Europe. Our research community has eagerly embraced the opportunities that LUMI offers for conducting cutting-edge research and innovation. Currently, the fastest European supercomputers are located here in Kajaani, Finland, Barcelona, Spain, and Bologna, Italy. LUMI was the first of these supercomputers to become fully operational, and we are proud to say that LUMI is currently the fastest supercomputer in Europe. The National IT Center for Science, CSC, has done an excellent job in hosting LUMI together with the other LUMI consortium members. CSC's data center here in Kajaani, located here in a former paper mill, provides an excellent operating environment for LUMI. The data center is a forerunner in environmental friendliness, primarily due to hydropower as a renewable energy source. Additionally, local energy companies utilize the waste heat produced by LUMI. LUMI is also an excellent model of the power of partnerships. The project is a joint effort between the European Union and the countries involved in the LUMI consortium. We are working closely with 10 other countries. At national level, we have seen excellent cooperation between the Ministry of Education and Culture and the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment. High-speed data connectivity is another important element of the data center's success. CSC operates and develops the Finnish Research and Education Network FUNET that serves our research community by connecting all research and higher education organizations. The Nordic NORDUNET provides FUNET with connectivity in the Nordics, while the European GIANT network ensures international connectivity. This location is also attracting some private companies to Kajaani. This brings XTX markets from UK and Borealis data center from Iceland have decided to enlarge their data center activities to Kajaani. The reason for these decisions were excellent data network connections, availability of ecological electricity, and synergies with the CSC data center. Supercomputers are vital, but alone they are not sufficient on their own to make top science and research possible. There must be data and the expertise to apply these resources effectively. Therefore, education and training and user support are essential services for the users. The LUMI supercomputer brings new possibilities for both scientific and applied research with world-class computing capacity. It is encouraging to see that in addition to the traditional hard sciences, social sciences, and humanities are now increasingly using computational methods in their research. Data in these fields is growing rapidly, offering new research methods and topics. Language studies, for example, are benefiting from IE and computational methods, bringing new insights and applications. Artificial intelligence is currently a key technology which is developing at a rapid pace. I am pleased that the Competitiveness Council recently reached a political agreement on the amendment of the Euro-HPC regulation to boost Europe's leadership in IE. I hope that Euro-HPC undertaking will be able to start soon the acquisition of new IE dedicated supercomputers. In Finland, the government has already decided to allocate at maximum 250 million euros as national funding for a new IE dedicated supercomputer that will replace LUMI at latest in 2027. We also expect that the other LUMI partner countries will join us in this investment. Destination Earth is an excellent example of the potential of digital modeling. The climate model represents a real breakthrough in terms of accuracy, local detail, and interactivity. Destination Earth and LUMI Supercomputer opens up completely new opportunities for cooperation between universities, research institutions, and business sector, which will in turn promote the well-being and economic growth across Europe and also here in Finland. Thank you for your attention.
Minister, thank you very much. Inspiring words from our keynotes and also from Kimmo as our host. It sets us up very nicely, I think, for the conversations to follow, an understanding of the, if you like, the amplitude and the importance of what Destination Earth represents as a model of cooperation, a model of technological advancement and progress, and above all, potential for the future. Now, in a moment, I'm going to invite our panelists for the next session to come on stage. But first, please join me in thanking Commissioner Vestager, Minister Satonen, and Kimmo Koski for setting us up for a great afternoon's discussion. So it is time for us to begin our panel debates. And as I explained at the beginning, the first topic is going to be a little retrospective, right? Bringing us up to the present day, the road to the launch of Destination Earth. So in many ways, this is if you like, a set of narratives about how we got here. And who else should we hear those narratives from but the core partners who have been, well, let's say with a mixture of blood, sweat, and tears, but also a great deal of optimism, devotion, and commitment, getting us from point A to point B and where we are today. So, to share their stories with us, I'm going to invite, first of all, Thomas Skordas, Deputy Director General from DG Connect, to join us on the stage at the European Commission. Thomas, if you would just like to take the second seat over there, thank you very much. Second, Florence Rabier, Director General of ECMWF. Florence, if you would like to take the seat next to Thomas. Third, Phil Evans, Director General of EUMETSAT. So Phil, please come next to Florence. Joining us online, we will have Simonetta Kelly, who's the Director of the Earth Observation Programs at the European Space Agency. And last but by no means least, Joe Wood, who's the Head of Unit Strategy and Governance at the Euro-HPC Joint Undertaking. So Joe, please join us on stage. Okay, so we're going to crack on with what I think is going to be a very interesting set of discussions about how we get to today. And I'm going to invite all five of you, including Simonetta online, first of all, just to share a couple of moments, a couple of minutes maximum, on why partnering in Destination Earth was so important for your organization. Why did this really matter in terms of supporting the wider European policy agenda and the research and innovation community? And we're going to begin with Thomas.
So, good afternoon to all. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's even a bigger pleasure when we see some of the things we've planned long ago to take really shape and are launched today. Maybe before I start, I would like to give you a small history of what happened with Destination Earth. It was back in April 2019, in a sunny terrace. It happens even in Brussels to have sunny terraces from time to time. So we were meeting with Joseph Aschbacher, who at that moment was actually the director for space observation in the place of where Simonetta is today. So he comes to see Roberto Viola, my Director General, and myself, and yes, he starts saying, I'm sitting in an ocean of nice data about climate, and we have now the Copernicus satellites that are delivering their promise. Can we do something together? So we start thinking with Roberto, seeing each other, and saying, what exactly would you like to do? Well, what about creating a digital replica of the Earth? That's a nice story. We started thinking and saying, what would it mean? And then we started thinking all together, and then we somehow we're recalling that a year ago we have had a very nice proposal by ECMWF about the extreme Earth, which was again about doing a kind of simulation of or developing a digital replica of Earth. And then when you start putting all these nice ideas together, you come with the first instance of Destination Earth. So that's the idea where it was born, so almost 5 years ago. And I must confess that ever since it took us, the ESA, ECMWF, and EUMETSAT that came in as our large international partners, excellent in the whole area to be able to realize Destination Earth, and the rest, I think, is part of history. 2 years to make sure that the whole ideas are promoted, get also the final approval by the Commission, by the Vice President, and by the President herself, and making sure that the credits are there and the whole story can be launched. So you can say, why all this was enough to make it happen? Actually, it's a nice coincidence, because at that moment, as the Vice President has said, digital and green were coming as the big priorities of the Commission. But at the same time, there were 3 other factors. Data, I think it was mentioned already, Copernicus, a lot of data by all these international institutions that we are having together. Computing, for the first time, Europe was having really the kind of large-scale computing to make it happen and simulate, using all this data, the first digital replica of the Earth. And most importantly, also scientific discoveries. Algorithms were there that we could run, and then the most important is human talent. Because without the human talent, nothing would have been done today. And this is where we are. The nice story is now taking place, with a little bit of some tens of millions of euros. So I think we come to say that we are around, I don't know how much we spent so far, but I think we are around 300 million so far, at least in commitments. Probably we'll reach 500 million by the end of this multi-annual financial framework. And with some further effort, I'm pretty sure that by the end of the decade, we'll have the most complete Earth replica of the world, and we can start using it already by tomorrow, by the way, of doing things that we have never imagined before.
Thomas, thank you very much. And we deliberately wanted to start with Thomas. It's sort of a decision taken over lunch, I hasten to add, because it gives a human context to what you're now about to see, which is the introductory trailer for what has been achieved. First glimpse, the sneak peek at Destination Earth. So if we can play the tape, let's have a look at Destiny. Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's worth a round of applause. The good thing is we have more. So watch this space. There'll be some more fantastic videos coming in a moment. And Thomas, I also wanted to reflect on the fact that you mentioned that Josef Aschbacher, the Director General of the European Space Agency, was one of these people who really sparked some of these ideas about what destiny could be. It's unfortunate that he won't be able to join us today, but before we move on to the rest of the panel discussion and perspectives from other partners, Dr. Aschbacher did want to share a few words with you and with the audience today on the importance of Destination Earth for European Space Agency. So if we can play the comments from Dr. Aschbacher, please.
So a very special welcome to the participants of the Supercomputer Center LUMI in Kajaani. I'm very happy to say a couple of words to you, but I'm talking here from the Berlin Air Show ELA, and would like to say that Destiny is such an important activity of the European Commission, implemented by the European Space Agency, ECMWF, EUMETSAT, and other partners with whom we work. I really think that DG Connect, and especially a word of thanks also to Roberto Viola, the Director General of DG Connect, for initiating this Destiny project, because I really believe that this is making good use of all the observations we have from Copernicus, all the data which we provide to the world, but now going to the next level. That means to simulate situations of our planet through digital twins, and Destiny is the vehicle. So I would so much like to be with you. I can unfortunately not be physically there, but I'm very happy to say a couple of words as a greeting here from Berlin. Thank you so much for the initiative. Good luck for the launch event, and all the best greetings from my side.
Stay. So I'm sure that the next milestone event that we celebrate with Destination Earth, Dr. Aschbacher will be with us. But for now, it's important that we also hear some of the book of Genesis from the perspectives of ECMWF, EUMETSAT, and EuroHPC. Let's start with you, Florence. Just a couple of minutes. What's the role that ECMWF has been playing in Destination Earth's development, and why has it been so important?
So we are specialists in numerical weather prediction and climate monitoring. And really, in the recent years, we've shown, Vice President Vestager reminded us that 2023 was the warmest year on record. But together with Copernicus, so we are implementing the Copernicus Climate Change Service on behalf of the European Union. And in the last 12 months, every month has been warmer than all the previous months on record since records began in 1940 for Copernicus climate change. And the last year has been more than 1.5 degrees above the pre-industrial area. So we are really entering uncharted territories. So we need some tools. And in that sense, really, Destiny is a game changer. And through these digital twins, that's how it will change the game, because we have these new tools that allow to make simulations of the future with bespoke scenarios. So then you can test any scenarios of what you would want to achieve and then see what the future might bring. And thanks to the EuroHPC power, we can do that at unprecedented resolution, so then with a much higher accuracy. So this is a bit where we come in, because we have almost 5 decades of existence, and we've been combining Earth observations, modeling, and high-performance computer to do these weather predictions and also climate monitoring. But we do that together with our partners, and I think we should really commend the Met Service in our member states, but all the climate center that joined together to deliver these digital twins. So together we are implementing the first 2 digital twins, as you saw in the video, one more climate change adaptation going to decades ahead, and one more short range to really see the impact of climate change on extreme events, seeing them develop at very fine resolution over Europe. So I think it's really nice that now we see it in a very short amount of time, as you mentioned earlier, coming all together. And really, how fast it was to develop this destination Earth is brilliant. And this is, I think, the European Commission should be commended for their vision a few years back of putting these different elements together, but also for making it happen, for making this vision a reality. And we are really proud to be part of it with our partners.
Fantastic. Thank you for those reflections. I'm going to turn next to Phil Evans from EUMETSAT. Phil, tell us about the role that you've been playing in its development so far.
Thank you. Before I go to that, I think it is worth just reiterating what an exciting project this is and what an exciting time it is. Something that's likely to be hugely impactful and hugely ambitious. And I think, as Florence said, I think the Commission should be thanked for their ambition and their vision and their funding to support this. It's really significant. Now, it's also important to recognise the urgency associated with this. The time is now for a tool of this power that's going to support adaptation to climate change with the emerging climate or developing climate crisis that Florence talked about. It is really important. But we're doing something very different. The community in large has many assets to support adaptation to climate change. It has Earth observing data, it has modelling, it had data access, but none of these things were linked up adequately to provide accessible, actionable information to users. So the challenges of doing that under the urgency of climate change are huge. The only way really to do that was what's happened is a partnership across leading organisations within Europe, organisations who've got expertise in Earth observing, data management, high-performance computing, modelling, engaging with users. That is really the only way to achieve something as ambitious as this. Now, EUMETSAT's role in this was the implementation of the data lake, the data store that underpins Destination Earth. Now that draws on experience we've had over recent years where we've seen it's not just enough to have Earth observation data. Actually, you need to be able to provide it to users in a way that's relevant to them so that they can deploy it and make decisions based on it. So this is really a development of what we've seen through our activities. The challenges for us in the data lake have been data volumes, huge data volumes, unprecedented. The federated nature of activities, different data stores across Europe, and the need to link data and modeling capability through the data bridge, really significant. And importantly, operationalizing this now through our work with the weather services in Europe. We understand what operational means, but it brings a particular challenge to this activity. And finally, the technological choices that we make. Cutting edge to the extent that we can deliver this, but not so cutting edge that the project is risky, a real challenge. In the end, what have we got? We've got something that allows the integration of modeling and data and interfacing with that. We've got something that meets the needs of the digital and green agendas. We've got something that supports data generation for AI, something increasingly important. But the most important thing is something that takes this massive data and expertise and turns it into something that's accessible and from which people can make decisions.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to summon the spirit of Simonetta Kelly, who I hope is online with us. In fact, there she is. Simonetta, lovely to see you. You're now on the screen in front of us on stage. So I hope you can hear us clearly. Let's give you a quick test to make sure we can hear you. You say hello?
I hear you very clearly. Yes, very clearly.
Perfect. Then the floor is yours. Tell us about European Space Agency's legacy in the development of Destination Earth and what the key contributions have been to bring us to where we are today.
Thank you, and good afternoon to all the colleagues. Would love to be with you in Kajaani. Aziza is one of the partners of this initiative, and as you know, my DG is not there, same reason for me. We have the same meeting today, unfortunately, but just a big thanks for organizing this moment. It's a topical one after 2.5 years of initial operation of phase 1 of Destiny. I think I would also like to pay a special thank you to the Commission that has had a really strategic, visionary, I would say, view in defining this project. implementing the digital agenda, but also valorizing with this initiative the wealth of the Earth observation data that we have today. About 350 terabytes per day of Copernicus data are available. All the data is in the archives, and all of those will be put at the disposal with the support from Space and Earth Observation to this initiative. It's a cooperation with EUMETSAT and ECMWF, and I think that's really the value of this initiative, because ESA's role has been to develop the platform. It's a platform that will somehow provide to decision makers some evidence in terms of supporting services and application, in terms of a cloud-based platform, but very flexible in terms of development of different services. And I think it will benefit in the end all of us, including industry, and it will really enhance innovation in the use of the Earth observation data and prediction on models on climate and all what we're discussing here.
Simonetta, thank you very much. We're going to be coming back to you in just a couple of minutes, so please don't log out or log off. Stay with us. We'll be coming back very shortly. But before we do, Joe, from the Euro HPC perspective, let's hear from your little story.
Good afternoon. I want to compliment Thomas's story simply because, in a way, the genius of the Commission was to align different planets together, to use that pun. And I was working in the Euro HPC planet, which was moving into formation. And in about 2019, I remember a conversation where the Commission was thinking, how do we give access to a project like Destination Earth? And the answer was, well, we're amending the regulations, so let's take advantage of that situation, right? And that's how Euro HPC joint undertaking, which at the time was being set up, was procuring at the time 8 supercomputers, one of which is behind you now, here, or behind us now, and the vision of saying we need users. There's no point having supercomputers if we can't fill the time on these systems, these amazing systems. And so with, of course, because it's the European Union, we need to adapt our rules to be able to do this, and this is where the concept of special access came in. 2 years ago, exactly almost to the day, we inaugurated LUMI, but we also had a governing board. And so this is a little bit of a thank you to the other part of the EuroHPC, not just the Commission, but the governing board. These are my 35 members from participating states, so not just 27 member states, but 8 other countries who have committed and signed up to Horizon 2020 at the time, and now Horizon Europe, who said, yes, let's go into this gamble, let's co-invest and co-fund these systems, and let's make them available to European researchers. Europe being what Europe is, we have to have rules, because of course we're spending European resources. This is taxpayers' money, after all. We didn't have a special way of getting Destination Earth into the system. So again, 2 years ago, we had a governing board where we came up with the rules of how to include special projects you're called, special strategic projects you're called, such as Destination Earth. And at the end of 2022, you were given that allocation, and here we are today. Now, I want to point out that the allocation that was provided to Destination Earth is not just LUMI, and I just want to say hello to the other systems that have kindly provided resources, and they are Bologna, so Leonardo. Is anybody from Leonardo? Little shout out to Leonardo and the Tunica team? No? Okay. And Meluxina. There you go. There's Meluxina, our supercomputer in Luxembourg. And last but not least, just arriving in the scene, Mare Nostrum 5. So welcome to Mare Nostrum 5 and Destination Earth. Between these different systems and up since 2023, when we started the allocation, a bit of fun fact, and I'm going to read this, I do apologize, but I think it's safer this way. We have EuroHPC and the systems of EuroHPC kindly funded by the European Union and its member states and participating states, allocated 431 million CPU core hours and 30 million GPU hours since 2023 across all the systems which I've just mentioned. And this lovely LUMI, has provided 284 million core hours in CPUs and 24 million GPU hours. I have no idea what that is on the market as a market rate, and I don't want to know. But just so you know, it's all there, it's all for free, and it's to help this project achieve what it is. So my last point is that EuroHPC is ready to welcome all users, such as Destination Earth, but others as well, in health, chemistry, physics, and yes, AI, when that comes, as well as public administrations and lots across Europe, and let's not forget, of course, industry and SMEs. That, I hope, gives you a little insight into our story. I could go on a much longer, but I won't. Thank you.
We have the breaks for that, so we'll come back to some of the details a little later. But to build on this, I'm very glad that you also mentioned SME and industry and the value proposition for other stakeholders, right, for Destination Earth to come into being. I'd like to turn back to Thomas now, because we've had a lovely summary of the early developments and discussions, but from a policy perspective, why was Destination Earth seen as necessary or so important? Was it also as a connecting point between some of Europe's interests around industrial strategy, around sovereignty and autonomy, as well as the digital transformation and digital capacity building in Europe?
In fact, here you have, I mentioned it a little bit, but I can now, thank you, I can expand a little bit more. So it's obvious to all of us who are seeing it from a digital perspective that the more you provide flagship projects out there and flagship initiatives that show the value of doing it Europe-wise, that can benefit actually our society, but also our industry, industrial players, the better it's going to be. And we need flagships of this scale to show that what is the European added value that individual member states cannot realize easily. So here we are bringing in Destination Earth, you heard it, the capacities, the, I would say, the experience, the knowledge, the skills from almost the whole Europe. Here, to be able to build Destination Earth, we do not have only the 3 leading institutes of the world that when we talk about data observation, when we talk about climate change, when we talk about meteorological, I would say, forecasting, etc. But behind them, there are another something like 120, I would say, partners, both from an industrial perspective, but also from a scientific perspective that are helping developing further this notion of Destination Earth. Some are building the cloud. Some are building, I would say, the edge computing, which has come to complement the supercomputing. Some are providing algorithmics. Some are also working on all these huge data spaces that we are using. I think it was said very well, it's not only Copernicus. If I'm not wrong, we have more than 160 individual data sets from where data is coming. It's exactly this kind of endeavor that shows the European added value, that shows that when we decide and we take the political decision, and many thanks actually to the Commission, to the Commissioner, to the Vice President here, that we took this fantastic decision, is that we show that we can do it. And I think it shows also that projects like Destination Earth and others that we have already planned that put this added value together show the huge advantage that we can have in Europe to making things happen. And I'm proud to say that this is an area not only where we're starting having, the best supercomputers of the world, but it's also an area where we can show by excellence how much the European skills, when coming together, can get into the world championship in showing what our algorithms in meteorology, what our algorithms soon in AI can do and compete with the best of the world. I mean, it's not a kind of, I would say, accident when the Americans are coming to ECMWF to get the meteorological forecast. It's not an accident that we found EUMETSAT and ECMWF and then ESA to team up and to create those things. These are the things that we need to do more in Europe, and I hope you can all agree that that's how we should continue building further the European perspective.
Very good. Thank you, Thomas. And I think for those of us who live in Brussels, synergies is oft quoted, but it's a tricky word. But if synergies is to be embraced as a concept, then Destination Earth is a wonderful example of how it can actually be realized and done. Now, I'm going to turn back to Simonetta And Simonetta, a similar question to you, but perhaps through the lens of science, Earth observation. Why did European Space Agency feel that Destination Earth was such a critical initiative to throw your weight behind?
Thank you, Simon. And certainly it's an initiative that combines the support to implementation of key European policies. I think they're of the digital one, but also the Green Deal and everything that's related to climate, putting at the service of the implementation of those policy tools and infrastructure like those of space. In this specific case of Destiny, what we put at the disposal is the data wealth, which, as you said, is not just of Copernicus, but the whole wealth of data which is available. And we put it together with the best of the expertise that's available in Europe. The one on modeling from ECMWF, the one on weather forecast from EUMETSAT, and the one of high-performance computing. So I think it's a project which has a size, a synergy, a dimension that can only be implemented at European level, first of all, with co-funding investments and real effort, supporting also a competitiveness increase of industry overall, and that's essential. We in ESA, we have a complementary program that we discussed at length with the partners here of Destiny, which is called the Digital Twin of the Earth. It's a research component which fits exactly what is the remit and the DNA of ESA. So it's really an effort also in terms of synergetic use of and best use of European resources, but also support to European industry, and also, last but not least, certainly support to decision makers in terms of forecasting and modeling. Today, we cannot just afford to know how the Earth is today. We need to know how the Earth will be if there is a temperature increase of 1 degree or something of that sort. We need to have forecasting capabilities. We need to have services which are flexible for citizen users and scientists. And that's exactly what we've tried to put together in this platform development with the partners.
Great, thank you very much, Simonetta. Okay, we're going to move back to you, Phil. You've mentioned a number of challenges that you encountered in the development journey. The huge data volumes, the lack of modeling and data capability, operationalization, and more. As we start to look to the future, right, conceptually as well as in today's program, have you solved those? Or are they still very present in the way that you are trying to continue your support for Destination Earth's development?
Okay, before I answer that directly, there's another point I want to make, which is to address a challenge or a difficulty that probably wasn't a difficulty, where you might have expected it to be. If you'd started out at the inception of this and said, we've got this really important project, it's urgent, it's going to help address climate change, so it has massive impact with society, but the way we're going to do it is through three implementing partners who've never worked together in that way before, with Euro HPC who've never worked in that way before, and 120 other partners. Well, I suspect you might have been a bit skeptical. The fact is that collaboration and that partnership has been incredibly successful, and hasn't been the challenge that you might have expected it to be. And I think there's an important lesson. There's an important lesson for Europe, that actually we can do partnership and collaboration with agencies, with industry, with SMEs, with academia, possibly in a way that other regions in the world cannot. So I think the important lesson is what wasn't the challenge.
Can I just quickly jump in there? Are there any particular keys to success, do you think? What made this partnership work where perhaps others have failed?
I think there's, well, I think partnership and an ability to work together is sort of a little bit in the DNA of the European Commission. It's in the DNA of ESA, EUMETSAT, ECMWF. We're international organizations. So I think that's important. It's how Europe works. I think a common purpose, and an important common purpose, brings some unity, and that drives an ability to work through the challenges that were encountered along the way, because there was this was mission driven. There was clearly something very important that we were going to deliver.
If I may.
Yes, of course,
The fact
Thomas.
that we spent 2 years to be able to put in place Destination Earth is also very significant. It's not only that we have been discussing, the terms of our contract. We've been discussing the slightest details in terms of what the system should do, not only in terms of key objectives, but also in planning it from an engineering perspective, from a procurement perspective, from the outputs expected, and from the key milestones one would expect, like if it were to be a project that we, the four of us, I mean the 3 E's and the European Commission, would realize. So it's this kind of activity that you take a little bit longer maybe to implement, but then the speed is there to make it happen under the correct terms that makes these things successful. Without those somehow a little bit longer preparatory periods that people may say, why does it take so long? I mean, bureaucracy is there. No, it's not only about bureaucracy. It's in particular to make sure that the project is super well defined so that we can go and meet our milestones and our objectives. And I think this is what we are now witnessing today, among others.
Yeah, and anything you build on robust foundations is a lot more durable than something built on sand, as we know.
Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you for that, Thomas. Now I'm going to turn back to you, Florence. And from the perspective of ECMWF and all of the research and analysis that you've been doing, what did you think was missing from the landscape, from the, if you like, the capabilities of your community that Destination Earth was able to fulfill? And there's a parallel question, and in fact, others can chip in on this as well. Why do you feel that Destination Earth was unique in being able to combine European excellence in science and in technology? But let's take the first one first. What was missing from the landscape, and then the platform for excellence?
So maybe for what was missing, I might use an analogy, if you like, Simon. So, because the community was already doing climate simulations and weather forecasting. But when we look ahead to the future, to the landscape ahead of us, you can think of it as taking a sort of photograph or a picture of what's laying ahead of us. And what we had was sort of limited in scope and maybe a bit blurry. The image might have been a bit blurry. And what we wanted was not to just look ahead, but to look in all the directions, having the flexibility to explore the whole landscape, to have a much more powerful camera and have a much finer resolution. And this is, I think, what we are doing with Destination Earth, and also making more frequent pictures. So I think this is the 3 dimensions that Destination Earth is bringing. So everybody relies on these climate projections, but they are performed by the climate community, very relevant climate centers, but usually research centers, that perform them every few years. What policymakers need is that we renew that much more often. So this is the frequency. So Destination Earth is really an opportunity, a unique opportunity to operationalize these climate simulations in order to then do adaptations. So climate projections sort of go towards operational. Then, thanks to the power of EuroHPC, and you indeed reminded us that it was not just LUMI, but also Leonardo, Mare Nostrum 5, and Meluxina, then we can have this much finer resolution. So this is like having a camera with much better pixels. And this is then very important because the effect of climate change are felt on the local scale. And the extreme weather event is also done on a local scale. So that was another element. And the third element, this sort of flexibility, having a wide scope, is super important, and that's what makes a digital twin. This interactivity, this is what we didn't have before, really responding to these what-if questions. So you have a question, so what if we did this? What would the future be like? And then you run a bespoke simulation and you have the answer. So these different aspects then make it a real digital twin and not the simulations we had before. And maybe what was missing, I mean, it was not really missing, but the revolution we had with artificial intelligence and machine learning in the last couple of years have taken us by storm. And in particular, I mean, talking about taken by storm is a bit funny when you talk about weather forecasting. But in particular in weather forecasting, and it was a bit, maybe we were a bit surprised to see the big step coming from USA, coming from Google, coming from Huawei, using all the wealth of data which we have provided in Europe through Copernicus and our reanalysis of the climate, and using this to actually build these machine learning forecast models. And we didn't think it would be so good in such a short amount of time. But actually, so we are ramping up our game to actually not only use all the data that we have produced collectively, but also these new technologies and be able to compete with the best, with the big tech, because we have the expertise in Europe. And I think Destination Earth is really an opportunity for innovation and to really put Europe on the map as well for this. So it's an opportunity for us to grab, and I'm sure we will grab it.
Fantastic.
So
Sorry,
maybe what's
carry on.
unique, yeah, as you say, the collaboration is probably what's unique, the synergies, so the big entities, the big climate center, the wealth of expertise that all our member states have, in particular the meteorological centers, and EuroHPC, the technology together. And finally, something we have talked a bit less, but this notion of co-design with users. So really already we are talking to the European Environment Agency, we are talking to industry of how would you like to play with this? What answers would you like answered? What questions, would you like answered? And devising a tool that from the beginning takes into account the needs of the users, I think it's very important as well.
Thank you, Florence. Now, I'm just going to turn to Phil and Simonetta with this question about Destination Earth serving as a platform for unique fusion of science and technology, of excellent ideas and capabilities in your field. Is there something about Destination Earth that, in your respective fields, has given you something that you didn't have before, to bring these two worlds together? Perhaps Simonetta, let's invite you first. You appear to be on mute, Simonetta. If you could just check your volume.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we do now.
now.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Simon. Just to say, there are quite a number of unique features. One of those is the fact that Europe has achieved with this project quite a sovereign solution in terms of cloud solution with European companies. And this is quite an achievement, I would say, at least in our domain of developing the platform. Another big achievement is the fact that we're currently working on an interactive platform in terms of getting the requirements on board from the users. All the different users will be able to interact with this platform in quite a, I would say, a novel way of approach. It's an operational platform, so we'll have challenges ahead in terms of consolidating, making sure it works. This is coming up, but this is a solution which has an interactive notion, which is very important to meet the requirements of the user communities, no matter if they're the administrative communities, the science one, or the citizens one. And this we will do progressively. We will open it progressively. And then another unique feature, I think, is the latest adding on of an AI dimension. And this is thanks to the Commission. The Commission and Thomas in particular suggested to look at ways, and this we will enhance hopefully also in phase 2, to integrate this dimension of artificial intelligence into the work of the collaboration of Destiny. And we're really seriously looking into that enhancement together with ECMWF and EUMETSAT. We think this is really something that's already part of the platform, but could be further developed for the next phase.
Thank you, Simonetta. Phil, anything further to add from EUMETSAT?
I think it's probably three things. The first, that from its inception, this has been driven clearly by the needs of policymakers and decision makers, and indeed is specifically there to support policy development. I think that clarity is really important. The second thing is fusion. The system brings together disparate data sources, different sources of EO, other data sources, combines that with modeling and provides tools for its application. That's not something we've seen in such an ambitious and orchestrated scale. And finally, the capacity to distill all of that data, all of that expertise into something that is relevant for people, so that what Destination Earth provides is relevant and crucially actionable, because it's only when someone makes a decision in the light of the consolidation of all of this data and all of this science and all of this modeling that you have an impact.
Wonderful. Thank you. Now, Joe, you've been waiting very patiently. We've also been waiting to come to you because, as I think we've heard in different perspectives, the role of EuroHPC has been critical, right? The potential game changer in terms of the compute power that's allowed these technologies, these platforms to come along. But you've also mentioned that you have quite a diverse group of stakeholders. And so I imagine it hasn't been completely smooth sailing to get unanimity, uniformity, and to bring the community along with you. or maybe it has. But what have been the highlights for Euro HPC's engagement in Destiny to date? Some of the bumps in the road, but where you think you are today in terms of supporting Destination Earth going forward.
Okay, so I'm coming a little bit from right wing, right side, left side, depending. Yes. So just to start from the beginning, EuroHPC wasn't set up just for Destination Earth. This is the sort of cold shower moment, I'm sorry to say. We were set up to procure, to invest in supercomputing and research and innovation in supercomputing and quantum computing in Europe. We have been gifted, as my boss would say, an awful lot of money to work with member states to procure supercomputers and, of course, to invest in the next generation of application software and algorithms in these different areas to help us basically go to exascale. The good news is that Jupiter will be online, hopefully, end of this year. Jules Verne, or actually, this is for you, Executive Vice President, sorry. The Jules Verne system will actually have a female name, but we'll tell you about that soon. The point is, our job is actually to increase capacity in computing in Europe. That's our first and foremost. We're also there to defend strategic autonomy in Europe, so that we're trying as much as we can to try and invest for Europe with European technologies, and that means investing in the research and development of those technologies. We're also tiny. I joined when we were 11, we're now 40, and we'll go up to 50 people. So the use side of the story was something that started a bit later in our development. Destination Earth has taught us an awful lot about how to work with specific community of users. And we're going to use that experience to then develop our different activities with other users. And I think that's the challenge that we all need to remember. And I'm looking at my colleagues who actually run the hosting entities and actually run the systems, is how do we make sure that, as I just said earlier, that we work these systems at full capacity, because it cannot be that those systems run on empty, and we keep everybody happy, so all our customers happy. And that will be the challenge that we in the JU will have to manage. And we will do that very happily, and we will do that collaboratively with our different partners and stakeholders. So that's the role of the JU, to keep investing, grow our capacity, and keep working with our partners to make sure that the systems are used as well. I hope that.
Very good, Jose. Thank you very much. So we have about 10 minutes left before the launch ceremony. So I think the very natural topic that we should touch on now is what comes next. So, Thomas, let's hear from you what kind of milestones and priorities we have, obviously in this very interesting time as we prepare for the transition into the next legislative mandate and the next commission. What are the headlines for what comes next?
Many. So just not to surprise you, definitely. I mean, we are in the beginning of the whole, I would say, roadmap on providing a full replica of the Earth by the end of this decade, hopefully. So we initiated the first 2 digital twins, and so today is the big day for them. But this is not the end of the story. There are many others that need to come. For example, I mean, some have already been mentioned. Ocean. For example, when you look at geophysical events, and therefore digital twins there would be good to integrate, tsunamis, earthquakes. When we talk about biodiversity, so these are elements that we need to bring in, about food, agriculture, etc. So this is the kind of visionary developments we have, and we are stimulating our scientific communities, plus the 3Es that are here, to go into this direction and to build these further digital twins that hopefully we will either make things interoperable with what scientific community is building, or we will integrate them directly in Destination Earth. AI. So this is the big thing. I mean, we started already working, so Simonetta and Florence have already mentioned it. I mean, it's not only in these 2 digital twins where we need to excel and to make sure that things are happening, but we need to go in all the other directions that are related to the other digital twins and many other things, including, for example, in the interaction, the physical interaction between the people who will be using the Destination Earth and the systems we have. So large language models and the likes should be part of the system. So that's the second dimension. Third dimension, as of tomorrow, we open up the system. Certainly with a lot of caution because it's still early days, but we open it up. First to our citizens to see in a demonstration mode what destination Earth can do, but the second and most important, to selected set of public and users, whether these are coming from the member states or whether these are coming from our scientists, to be able to continue this co-design and co-creation process that was mentioned before, so that they can further develop the whole system, give us feedback, and continue working in improving the system. And then what's coming next? International cooperation. Let's not forget that if we do all this, it's not only to keep it only for the Union. We have the whole Earth, suffering from climate change. It would be more than a pride for all of us to be able to deliver these kinds of systems when the moment would come to the rest of the world. Maybe I could even say donate it, so when the moment would come. We're not yet there, but I'm pretty sure we will get there. But before, and most important, let's use also the system to stimulate also the talent, the human capital that we need, because now we can play with a system which is formidable out there, and I think we can use it to attract many young people, to show to them what real science is, and not just, working and looking at the social media or acting for whatever reason in the social media, so trying to make money from the social media. But here there is a real employment that they can have and a real career path, and they can really contribute to things that are going to be amazing in the near future. So that's, I would say, some of the challenges we have in the years to come, and we look forward to them.
Well, challenges and opportunities.
And opportunities.
And opportunities. Thank you very much for that summary. Florence, let's turn to you next. What do you think are the key next steps, either for ECMWF or some of the key opportunities and milestones that you are working towards?
Sure. So, we've just produced these twins. It has been very fast, but this is just really a first glimpse of what we can achieve. So we have to continue to work with these new machines because, this was one of the challenges. I didn't answer to the challenge, but our codes have been developed over decades, and they were used for more traditional machines, but adapting to these new GPUs, for instance, but also these brand new machines. It was really a learning combination that we worked together to really make the most of it. So we still have to make our procedure more efficient, maybe, and go more towards operational, really, getting these data more often. So the weather forecasts every day with a zoom over Europe with our member states, so that when we see something coming over Europe, then they can trigger some warnings. So this is really a very exciting part as well. And we have to put maybe more robust quality control because, we've just done these few twins, but of course we have to be, when we go to the operational, we have to guarantee, of course, the quality control. And the co-design with the users, I think, will be very important because for the time being, what we had done was, what would you think if we had this and how could we do it together? But now we have this resolution, we have this twin, so we can really try things together with the users and with an enhanced range of users, and that's super important. And finally, AI. So it's nice to say that AI is coming, and it's really, as I say, taken up by the storm, what it can deliver. But we shouldn't forget the physical-based modeling, because we can't throw away decades and centuries of what we know from when Newton was, etc. We know what the Earth is doing. So finding the optimal combination of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and this physics-based modeling, it's going to be super interesting to try to find this best combination in the future. So very, very exciting. We can definitely work for the next decade or more all together on it.
Thomas, you want to add something?
Yes, I think the real turning point would be when we will manage to do precision forecasting and simulation at the level of 500 meters. We are already excellent because we moved from 100 kilometers to the scale of 5 kilometers, and this shows in some of the videos that the huge difference that we have. But when we will reach really the local, and people would understand that this storm will pass from me, this will be, the consequence that I may have. This is the consequence that we have locally on agriculture, produce, on our farmers, etc. This is where people would start understanding the huge difference that these kinds of systems would bring to their real life and to their everyday life. And this is where also public authorities can intervene and save lives. When we have extreme events, whether these are heating stresses, whether these are floods, whether these are other catastrophes, this is where you can make the difference. And the big difference here is that you can now predict quite, I would say, with quite good precision, these events at least 3-4 days in advance.
Yep.
And this is what really would make the things happen in the future.
And we already have this prototype of weather forecasting globally at 4 kilometers and then a zoom over Europe at about 500 meters. And so that is really a great enhancement indeed.
Fantastic. So when we do the 5th anniversary of this conference, 500 meters.
We'll show more results.
Now, we're getting very close to the launch, so I'm just going to invite Simonetta, Phil, and Josephine for some very quick final thoughts as well on the what next that hasn't already been covered. Any particular highlights that you want to mention for ESA, EUMETSAT, or EuroHPC? And then we're going to move to the launch ceremony. Simonetta, you first, please.
Simon, thank you again. We have to be more and more interactive. We have to learn on the way the platform works, on the eventually improvements we need to integrate. We need to make sure that European industry can support the development of the right services for the relevant administration, integrate the AI dimension, this was already said, and all this in the short term. In the long term, integrate new dimension to the digital twins. There's a lot of potential in terms of developing diversified twins, exploiting at best the data available, and make sure all of this is really supporting the policy priorities of Europe collectively and our collaboration on climate and environment with the international partners.
Super. Thank you very much, Simonetta. Phil, over to you.
Very quickly, this is becoming an operational system. There are real challenges to running an operational system that we will understand as time goes on and we will need to adjust to. No service survives first contact with an end user, so there will be tuning and development that's essential. We've seen how I have to mention AI. You know, AI has had a dramatic impact in weather and climate forecasting. It's producing output as good as the best physical models. It's not just a case of getting the right balance between physical models and AI models. It's also thinking about how we curate and store the data in destination Earth to serve AI applications, inclusion of additional digital twins, and also I think thinking about the wider ecosystem of related activities in which destination will sit, and destination will probably help form an adjusting destination Earth in time in the light of the wider ecosystem.
Excellent, thank you. Josephine, you get the last word.
So when I get back to Luxembourg, our two priorities will be implement the AI factories regulation as of next week, hopefully, and all that will involve that. And just to reflect on Thomas's point and your last point, our real priority now is also to build competences. So making sure that we have the skills in Europe, bring them to Europe so that we can support the supercomputers that you need to make work, and create hope for the next generation that there are extremely interesting jobs and careers out there here in Europe, which will help save not just Europe, but the planet. So that's what we will be doing.
Wonderful. Such a positive note to finish on. So, we are going to head to the launch ceremony, but before we do, I would like you to join me in thanking Thomas, Florence, Phil, Josephine, and Simonetta online for a wonderful set of perspectives about how we got from there to here. And after the coffee break, we're going to talk about from here to the future. But first of all, thank you very much to the panel. So if you'd like to... So, while our panelists retake their seats, it's time to get the party started, as the old saying goes. But before we get to that moment, we have a couple of other videos that we'd like to share with you. The first is going to be from ECMWF. It's the Destination Earth System in action. So if we can play the tape for the first video, and let's go a little bit behind the Wizard of Oz's curtain.
Destination Earth transforms the quality and the way information on climate change and extreme events are provided. But how does it work? Let's take the example of the Climate Adaptation Digital Twin. For the first time, it operationalizes the production of global climate simulations for the decades to come, both regularly and on demand, and this at much higher resolutions than current systems. Led by CSC, the strong partnership behind it harnesses Euro-HPC's top supercomputers. Working with leading Earth system modelling institutions, together with ECMWF and many partners around Europe. Now, what's entailed when activating the climate digital twin to simulate the evolution of our planet until 2050? When Destiny teams launch a simulation, the digital twin engine gets into action to orchestrate all the components of this system. A powerful workflow manager makes the simulation run and tracks its progress. This workflow is deployed on the Euro-HPC supercomputers, whose novel architectures and accelerators are critical to performing the high-resolution climate simulations. With this extreme computing power, the digital twin generates datasets up to petabytes in size, depicting the Earth system with an incredible level of detail. To ensure constant quality control of the simulations, a monitoring framework runs in parallel. User-relevant climate information is produced to serve the needs of key impact sectors such as wind energy, to plan for future-proof wind farm portfolios, fisheries, for future climate-sensitive fisheries management, or health sectors, to prepare populations at city level for new heat waves. All this climate information feeds into the data lake, and its access is facilitated via the digital twin engine services. The data lake allows users to access, process, and combine the digital twin data with other information sources to serve their needs. Implemented on a distributed cloud infrastructure close to Euro-HPC and beyond, it is designed to provide highly scalable storage and cloud computing capacities. The journey continues with the core service platform, where users can connect to the Destiny system and exploit it thanks to innovative applications and services.
So there we go. That was the first look at the digital twins in action. And before we move to the launch ceremony, we have a second snippet to play for you from the European Space Agency core service platform. So if we can please play the second tape and then to the ceremony.
Hello, I'm Simonetta Kelly, the Director of Earth Observation Program of the European Space Agency. I'm pleased to introduce you the Destination Earth platform. As the entry point to Destination Earth, the Destiny platform gives you access to a vibrant ecosystem of innovative services, all aimed at unlocking the full potential of Destiny resources. It connects Destiny users and projects across Europe, offering turnkey solutions, collaborative tools, and specialized user support. Let's explore together the initial services available on the platform, from Destiny data discovery to the delivery of added value insights supporting climate action. With Destiny Storytelling, dive into public user stories, discover inspiring contributions from our community, create your own story, easily blending Destiny data with your own to craft and share stunning no-code visual narratives. Explore the Destiny data lake with harmonized data access and prototype APIs. Utilize these APIs with services like Eden and Sesam, offering user-friendly interfaces that facilitate discovery and interaction with data. Services such as Earth Data Hub are providing analysis-ready data, fast time series, simplifying complex tasks for everyone, intensively engaging with Earth data. The platform development environment Insula caters to all skill levels, from non-experts, thanks to guided, easy-to-use examples, up to technical experts seeking to experiment in their preferred programming languages. Delta enriches this collaborative experience by offering an advanced modeling environment for expert users, whilst GeoEye leverage artificial intelligence to transform complex imagery into actionable georeference insights. The platform is designed for sustainable innovation. It empowers users, integrate and operate their services, mindful of their carbon footprint while maximizing the efficiency and the exploitation. We encourage the ecosystem to participate in open calls that assist in launching and running innovative, groundbreaking services. The Destiny platform operates on a secure European cloud infrastructure, ensuring compliance with EU and national regulations on data privacy and sovereignty. It provides the necessary scalability to dynamically allocate resources, guaranteeing optimal performance when demand peaks. Begin your journey on the Destiny platform today.
So many thanks to Simonetta and the ESA team for putting together that wonderful video to introduce the idea, the ambitions, and the scope of the core service platform. Now, we're almost there, but before we move to the ceremony, just a couple of very quick practicalities. First and foremost, after the ceremony, coffee break over here. But also for our online audience, we will be starting again at 3 o'clock sharp. So please get coffee, but try to be back in your seats shortly after 5 to 3, okay? That way we don't keep our online audience waiting. Second, there will be opportunities to engage with the booths as well. The visualization of some of the initiatives and the use cases and applications. Feel free to have a drop in, talk to the people in the booths as well as afterwards. But I think the time has come now to invite Executive Vice President Vestager to assume her position next to the historic bell. So while you transition over to the ceremonial spot, a quick word. This is, I think, a very symbolic moment in a very symbolic building. The building itself being a symbol of imagination, industrial reinvention, dreams of the future, investment in the future. The bell is a recognition of the legacy of the past. And when I was thinking about today, Destination Earth, what is Europe really trying to achieve with Destination Earth? It does feel revolutionary rather than evolutionary. And it got me thinking. 250 years ago, almost to the day, another group of pioneers, this time in America, faced an existential crisis. That was British colonial rule, but I'm not going to dwell on that. But they decided to act. And they acted first at Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts in standing up to the British. And a few decades later, Ralph Waldo Emerson called that first act of resistance the shot heard around the world. Destination Earth is another revolution, as a response to another existential crisis that we face. But this is also one that's full of hope, a hope for prosperity, a hope for success, hope for well-being, and a hope for a brighter future. And so I now invite the Executive Vice President to give us the bell heard around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Destination Earth is launched. Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Coffee is served. Please go and help yourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, can I invite you to retake your seats, please? We start in 2 minutes. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to get on with the second half of the conference. And now we're really into forward-looking mode. Okay, we've got 2 sessions in this afternoon's agenda. The first one is going to focus very much on use cases and expected impact around Destination Earth. And in the final session, we're going to be looking at artificial intelligence, the role of destiny, European leadership, and the prospects for young career researchers in science. But allow me to introduce the panel who's going to help me illuminate the high potential, the value proposition, the unique selling proposition of Destiny for potential users. So first, to my right, Paco Doblas Reyes, who's the ICREA Research Professor and the head of the Earth Sciences Department at the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. Next to him, we have Marianne Thuring, who is the Director General of the Danish Meteorological Institute. And next to her, we have Carl Hamilton, who's the newly installed Head of Data and Information Services Program at the European Environmental Agency. So a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us for today's panel. Now, this is going to be a little like an episode of Desert Island Discs. If anybody knows that from the UK, right? It's a mixture of sort of short commentary and then highlights, like quick excerpts, which aren't going to be records, they're going to be testimonials from senior users, right, to complement what we hear on stage. And without further ado, we're going to get that going with a couple of very important perspectives. First, from Ottmar Wiesler, the president of the German Association of Research Centers, Helmholtz Association. If we can please play Dr. Wiesler's tape.
As president of Germany's Helmholtz Association, I am delighted to share my view on how the groundbreaking Destination Earth initiative of the European Commission, particularly its climate digital twin, will be transforming our approach to understanding and addressing climate change. Destination Earth is extremely relevant for society and research, especially given the climate urgency. Our Helmholtz centers have been at the forefront of developing climate digital twins, utilizing our ample expertise in climate science, computational modeling, data analysis, and AI-based algorithms. This innovation offers unprecedented precision of climate projections, allowing us, for example, to assess potential scenarios and their impact with unprecedented clarity in order to make the impacts of climate change much more tangible. Destination Earth builds on a novel framework for European collaboration in Earth system modeling, supercomputing, and AI, producing the best possible comprehensive climate information. These challenges must be addressed in concerted international efforts. Your climate digital twin will empower policymakers, scientists, businesses, and communities to make informed decisions tailored to both local and global needs. Destination Earth builds on recent breakthroughs in artificial intelligence. It complements national efforts such as our recent investments in the development of foundation models. Our centers are absolutely committed to working with partners across Germany, Europe, and beyond to build and utilize Destination Earth's climate information infrastructure. Together, we are pioneering a new era of climate science and action, ensuring a resilient and thriving planet for future generations.
So a glowing endorsement from one of Europe's most influential organizational leaders. But now we're going to hear from somebody who, from a scientific perspective, is equally relevant and influential in his field. Bart van den Hurk, who many of you may know as the co-chair of Working Group 2 of the seventh assessment period of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and these days now also Scientific Delta at Deltares. How can Destination Earth support the work of vital platforms such as IPCC? Let's play his tape and hear his thoughts.
Good morning. I'm Bart van den Hurk, one of the two co-chairs of Working Group 2 of the 7th assessment cycle of IPCC. The anthropologist Amitav Ghosh once coined that the climate crisis is actually a crisis of imagination. And it's true that the real-world picture of what climate change looks like in terms of its impacts, but also in terms of the actions committed against these impacts, is crucial to help society to cope with these impacts. Destination Earth is very well positioned to make these real-world pictures of it. The first report that in the current cycle will be produced is a special report on climate change in cities. And the fine scale at which decision-taking takes place in cities and the fine scale at which climate impacts materialize makes this a perfect pilot area to prototype what the added value of very realistic pictures of climate change and measures to combat their impacts may be like. And we definitely hope that the outcome of the Destination Earth program and the digital twin on climate adaptation will prominently be featured in that upcoming report and the forthcoming assessment reports that will be produced in this cycle. A lot of good luck, lots of success with this important and interesting program.
Okay. Thanks to Bart van den Hurk. No pressure, then, in terms of expectation. It raises the bar a little. So, in terms of the discussion that we're going to have on stage, we're going to invite our three panelists in turn, interspersed around some of these testimonials, to give first thoughts on the user value proposition for their organizations. And then we're going to discuss a little bit more about some of the novelties and other potential benefits that Destination Earth can bring to the community moving forward. But I'm going to begin with Paco Dobles Reyes for Barcelona Supercomputing Center. What's in it for you?
Okay, well, as I told you, I have lots of notes already, and obviously I have to be very short. I want to make clear that I'll be speaking also on behalf of a lot of colleagues that are involved in the development of the climate ET, both at ECMWF and also in the contract led by CSC and with Jenny Konkanen at the helm, which is working very hard to really make this a reality. I still remember well, Thomas mentioned when Destination Earth started for him. For us, it started a bit later, so I didn't talk to Joseph Aspacher at the time. But there were a series of workshops organized by DigiConnect, and it was very interesting because not very many people had a good idea, a good understanding of what Destination Earth should or will be doing. Actually, I didn't even have an idea. It was all very confusing, as it often happens. It was at the time of the lockdown that really helped with imagination, that Bart is referring to, a crisis of imagination. That was a perfect one. But I think it was a perfect metaphor. So the world was changing, and we were entering a completely new phase of how social relations were going to take place. So at the time when the whole thing was formulated, everything seemed impossible. The year HPC machines didn't exist, the models were not ready, the users were not identified. It was almost virtually impossible. And I have to say that after 2.5 years of working very hard on this, and when I say very hard, is very, very hard, and this is thanks to machines like this, but also thanks to an asset that we have in Europe that is absolutely fundamental. Thomas also mentioned that, people. We have people in Europe that are able to really put this in place, and that this is not trivial. Finding these people and convincing them that this is a really inspiring and a project with a future it was really challenging. So what we are seeing here is the tip of the iceberg. It's a transformational tool. There is a lot to do yet, but what we are bringing here is something that is susceptible to transform the climate information that we can provide to European society, for European citizens and companies and public administrations, and also to support European interests. And I say this also as an author of the first European Climate Risk Assessment report commissioned by the European Environment Agency, and as a co-author of the IPCC as well. We needed a change, we needed new tools, and these are the tools that are putting on the table with Destination Earth. And yeah, it's really exciting, unique, and very special.
Okay, thank you very much, Paco. We're going to roll the tape. Next, we're going to hear from Roar Skalin, Director General of the Norwegian Meteorological Institute. So let's please hear from Norway.
In August 2023, many Norwegian municipalities were severely damaged by the extreme weather event Hans. Moving across the border from Sweden, a rare low-pressure system caused 2 days of consecutive rain in southern Norway. Within the large-scale event, there were a number of local, high-intensity precipitation events, causing flooding and landslides, such as the one behind me. The digital twin for weather-induced extremes will improve the ability of Met Norway to monitor and forecast extreme events across borders. Using the global extremes digital twin and local observations from radars and thousands of personal weather stations, the on-demand extremes digital twin can be activated to forecast an event on sub-kilometer scale. Such highly localized forecasts are essential in order for us to issue warnings. Thus, the forecast will help to prepare for and mitigate the impacts of extreme weather events and protect the people living in the narrow valleys of Norway.
Okay, so a very valuable and very practical application case in Norway. Let's come a little bit further south. Marianne Thuring, share us some of your thoughts about the user value proposition for Destination Earth.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having the opportunity to be part of this panel. And I would like to echo what Paco just said. I'm also talking and speaking on behalf of the National Meteorological Institutions, Roar Skalin Institute in Norway being one of them, but we are many who has been dealing with the development of digital twins to the stage where we are today. So that's why the most compelling, in fact, element right now, as I see it, is commitment and capability in our community. I think the meteorological community has shown that we are most relevant in the realization of what the Commissioner and also Skodas has underlined today, the need of delivering something practical in the search for the European Green Deal and Destination Earth. I would like to mention to all of you that, in fact, 18 months ago, the Executive Vice President of the Commission, Margrethe Vestager, came to DMI, and you met with us, and you expressed your ambitions, you expressed needs Europe have for digital twin. We could participate, and You met with our scientists, and we promised you, together with our colleagues around the other national Met services and our meteorological organizations, ECMWF and EUMETSAT, that we would work the best we could and the hardest we can in order to deliver in the very short period of time you gave us. So that's why, of course, today is really a day to celebrate for us. I think we managed, and I think that we managed because we have managed to work very, very closely together. Many people have worked together who never worked together before. People found their ways because the sort of strong ambition from the Commission was really clear. So we are proud of having delivered a prototype of the digital twin and the workflows which comes with it. So I think for the future, apart from what my colleague Ross Gordon just mentioned, the sort of initial message from us is that we are ready to continue our support. We are ready to work for the European programs. We are ready to discuss how best to get there. Now we have more experience than for 18 months ago, since the Vice President, the Executive Vice President came to our institute. So we have a lot to discuss with other institutes as well, and the European Commission. So we are, short message, we are ready.
Fantastic, Marianne. Thank you for that. And I'm very relieved that you are ready. It would have made for a very uncomfortable remainder of the session if you'd said, we don't want to.
We're fed up.
Yeah. So, okay, so we've also touched already in this panel and earlier on the importance of industry involvement and communication of the benefits, the services that can support industrial innovation as well. Next, we're going to hear a short testimonial from Catherine Ballerstein, who's the Director of Energy System Planning at TenneT in Germany. Can we please play Catherine's tape?
The share of renewable energy in our power system is constantly increasing. As a result, we are becoming more and more dependent on precise weather forecasts and climate projections. At TenneT, we are a leading transmission system operator with our grid covering the Netherlands and large parts of Germany. Put simply, we make sure that the lights stay on. To do so, we monitor security of supply, maintain the grid, and invest in new infrastructure. Destiny's digital twin will play a key role in the development of resilient energy systems. By integrating extensive weather data and climate projections in our planning processes, we can develop an adequate power grid and keep the lights on and energy affordable today and tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine. Let's hope that's the first of many positive reactions from the world of industry as Destination Earth moves into its implementation and service provision phase. Now, third panelist, little opening remark. Carl, European Environmental Agency, what are your perspectives on the user value proposition of Destination Earth?
Yeah, so first of all, I have the privilege of sitting here today on behalf of the European Environment Agency. But again, like Paco and Marianne, I'm here representing the work of many, many colleagues over several years in this field. And of course, the European Environment Agency isn't just an agency in and of itself. It's actually a representative of a network of member states and environmental observation communities. I think it's also important to congratulate the Commission and ESA and ECMWF and EUMETSAT for this amazing achievement, and especially, as you said, Simon, for the speed in which it's been developed. I think the term game-changing and groundbreaking is used a lot these days, but I think this really is truly one of those initiatives that's going to change the game in the way that we deal with climate change and adaptation to that. So the work of the EEA is really, we sit at this interface between science and policy, and it feeds very nicely from the last panel discussion, because our role is to provide independent, science-based, policy-relevant data and assessments to support Europe's environment and climate goals. And of course, we've never had as much data. we've data on environment, on climate, and socioeconomic factors, but it's not always optimized for climate adaptation at different governance levels, be it local, national, European, or even beyond at the global scale. And that's where Destination Earth really is the game changer, because now bringing in supercomputing capabilities like we have here at this facility to run machine learning and AI algorithms at scale that we've never been able to before, we've the opportunity now to really run simulations of future scenarios and test those adaptation measures in ways that we were never able to do before. And this is going to make a significant impact into our work in the future. The world in Europe needs solutions, and one more very powerful tool in our arsenal, like Destination Earth, is extremely welcome, and it's going to really change the game. It's really important that EEA's assessments are based on science and data, and that's something this is going to allow us to do, because by being able to process the volumes of data that this model can do and the system can do, it's going to allow us to do foresight in a way that we've never been able to do, and actually produce quantitative data to support those assessments. And I think just very finally, briefly, it's also compelling because it means that the EU continues to be a leader in environmental and climate challenges and how we face those at a global level.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carl. I'm very glad you mentioned those couple of things at the end, because it's actually the segue into the next question. So I'm going to come back down the panel. Marianne, Carl's spoken about some of the challenges that Destiny is helping EEA deal with, and also where you think the impact can be felt. From the perspective of the Danish Meteorological Institute and some of your partners, same question for you. What are the key challenges that you think it's going to help you be able to address, and where is the impact going to be felt?
The key challenges, of course, is to be better in understanding the impact of the extreme weather situations, the impact of climate change, and the concrete and practical, very extreme weather events which we see numerously these years in I think all European countries. We need to have our operational implementation of the digital twin. We need to have the sub-kilometer scale models. We need to have what we are able to do now, to build up a kind of mirror with our users. They see the same as what we see, to create really societal benefit of all the efforts we have done. And also to protect, of course, citizens and property in Europe. I think these improvements, or the possibility of the improvements, is challenged by the fact that sometimes when we invent things, we are not so good at remembering to train our nice ideas. And in this case, in the case of Destination Earth, in case of the digital twin, if we really want to make societal benefit, we will have to train, and we will have to understand from practical purposes, how do we use this whole new technology? And for all our users, it is not only for us, but also for our users, it is a new beginning. But I can probably come back to it, but also in small scale, small pilot projects, small training sessions within our own institute will be needed to bring the forecasters and our scientists so close together as possible. All digital development creates a bit of fear, creates a bit of organizational change, and we will have to cope with that as well, apart from the scientific scientific development. So there are many ways in which we have challenges, but we can make it if we want to.
Okay, fantastic. We're going to come back to embracing the novelties and the new capabilities a little later. First, Paco, same question to you, and then I have a follow-up regarding, again, the novelties of the digital twins. But let's start with the challenges and impact first.
Well, the Destination Earth is already breaking barriers. I think just from the point of view of how it is inspiring discussions in the research community and in the operational community, it's really making a splash. It's no doubt that this is an impact. It's an immediate impact, and it brings along additional challenges like bringing together what Destination Earth is able to do, but also recognizing that we need the existing communities to really make the most of the Destination Earth initiative. So Destination Earth doesn't happen in the void. There are lots of other things happening there, and we really need to make sense out of all these different things that are taking place out there. If from the climate adaptation point of view, for instance, the recognition that social sciences and humanities are fundamental to have to make an impact in society, in business, in public administrations, has to be part of the recognition of what we are trying to do in Destination Earth. And it's not a trivial task, it's a massive challenge. Bringing in AI from at the point of view of not just massaging data and having flashy results out there, but really introducing AI for people's benefits, it's not trivial. So people need to be at the center of Destination Earth. And when I say people, it's not just individuals. It's public administrations at all levels, it's the business level in the business world, not just in Europe, but also for European interests. And then from that point of view, I think we can build a lot of things in collaboration with other European and national initiatives, Horizon Europe being one of them, but operational activities that are already taking place are other examples.
Okay, so let's just build on this for a minute. The digital twin for climate change is the one I think that you and your colleagues are going to be working with most closely, or have been already. So what is it that makes its structure and its capabilities so novel and valuable to you? What can you do now that you couldn't do before? And is it just linked to the AI component or the scale, the speed? What's the game changer for you?
Well, there are many different game changers, at least from the point of view of the developments that have taken place in the last 2 years. For instance, the introduction of the streaming concepts that Spotify and YouTube are using to serve data in a much quicker way than what the traditional way the research community has been serving climate projection data is groundbreaking. So we are bringing some solutions from the technological side that are oriented to make what we're doing in Destination Earth more useful to society. So it's not just sorry if I insist on the use of the word flashy, it's not about making flashy results, it's about thinking about citizens' interests, and the development of the European economy and ecosystems. In the end, climate change is interesting and it's very catchy, but climate change, the ignorance of climate change kills people. It kills people in the same way as the ignorance of weather situations. And this is very serious. It really kills jobs. It creates situations in which companies have to lay off people. We've been working with, in Catalonia, where we live, we've been working with the wine sector. And the wine sector is very interesting because it's an agricultural sector with very high added value. We've been working with a very famous company in the region that makes wine. And that company has gone through the drought that we had in Catalonia that has been unprecedented. And another competitor has ignored climate. And they are laying off people now, a few hundred. So it's making and creating unemployment. And this is serious stuff. It's not just saving ecosystems, which is very important. It's caring about people.
Wonderful. The climate change adaptation digital twin obviously has a sort of longer-term perspective. I think it's not flashy, it's actually quite cool, right? To have this tool that allows you to look way out into the future and say, this is what we think the world's going to look like. But for Marianne, you're dealing with very short-term things, right? So the extreme weather, or weather-induced extreme events, it is full events. So what's this digital twin allowing you to do that you weren't able to do before? Why is it so valuable, particularly in these very short-term response to extreme events?
It's true that we deal with, of course, short-term interventions. in the case of extreme weather events. But I have to mention National Met Services and our own as well also deal with delivering the decision-making systems for climate adaptation. So we are, in fact, working both in the very short term and in the very long term. We translate our knowledge about climate change into something which is societal relevant in, for instance, the DMI Climate Atlas. But trying to answer your question, I think, in fact, I knew the question before, so I've really been thinking about what would the relevant answer be. I think for us, the main novelty, in fact, is the construction itself. The reason being that the construction itself, it fosters collaboration, and it fosters or creates an ecosystem which bridges the gaps which are between all those people, if they want to use what we are doing and if they're capable of doing it. It bridges all the gaps which are between users and, for instance, agencies and authorities. Sorry to say, every time we fail or we do not manage to warn citizens in difficult and very dangerous situations, it is when the communication between agencies doesn't go well. It's usually the reason why. You could obviously find other reasons, but that's a very important reason. And that's why this, the digital twin gives us the possibility to build up a language, build up a way of communicating with our collaborators, also on a national level. And we can build up ways of reacting to each other in the difficult situations. And I think that's why my answer to you, Simon, is that the construction as it is really the novelty. At the same time, it also pushes our capability of using modern technology. And I think I won't repeat what Paco has just talked about concerning AI and the support to our usual numerical weather prediction models. But there's a huge sort of possibility of developing the service to society and make societal value out of the investments we do. We don't know yet how it's going to be and how we will do it, but it's for sure that we have possibilities in future which we do not have today.
Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, now I'm going to move the conversation on to Carl, and then we're going to have another couple of testimonials. But Carl, it was important, I think, that as part of this panel discussion, we touch on something which has come up a number of times earlier. It's the idea of co-creation, like co-design with users. And I think from the EEA perspective, you have some thoughts on how this has been done, how you've been involved in that process. So what can you share here about the value of that aspect of Destination Earth's development?
Yeah, thanks, Simon. So obviously co-creation is really key to the success of Destination Earth, but also for the work that we do in agencies like the European Environment Agency. And as Simonetta showed in the video in the previous session, there's this entire ecosystem has been built, and the opportunity for co-creation is enormous. But you also mentioned, flashy technology. Flashy technology is great, but it's actually what we do with it that matters, and that's where the co-creation is absolutely essential, because with this level of investment, what a shame it would be if we didn't actually use this to change the game in what we do. By its nature, the European Environment Agency represents co-creation in a wide stakeholder network, because we have the IONET, which is effectively our cooperation with member states. And we have a key role in working with ECMWF on the development of the climate adaptation framework that actually underpins the digital twin on climate adaptation. So we're feeding information into that model and helping to train it, and we'll continue to do that over years. EEA is also responsible for the European Climate Adaptation Platform, which is called Climate Adapt, and that in itself is a partnership and a co-creation with the European Commission. And Basically, Climate Adapt gives access to a lot of data that can feed the data lake for this system, but it also gives access to knowledge and information on climate adaptation measures and policy at different governance levels, so local, national, and European. And by building that knowledge into the digital twins, that's really going to help to evolve these over the coming years and really unlock a lot of the potential for what it can do. And that should allow us to be able to simulate the effectiveness of different adaptation measures at different governance levels, but also across different sectors in the future. And really crucially also help us to avoid maladaptation measures. So by being able to predict where a future flood zone might be, or if we green urban spaces in a particular way with particular type of trees, are we actually inadvertently introducing other risks like urban fires? So that's really where this co-creation becomes really important. And it also works the other way around, because Paco mentioned the EUCRA report, the Climate Risk Assessment Report, which I know, Paco, you'd co-authored part of. It was the first time we released this year, but Destination Earth is going to really help us build the next version of that with quantitative data. So it's going to co-create the work that we do with the member states in the next version of that. And I think it's really exciting to think for the future about all the other digital twins that we can develop on biodiversity, water, soil was mentioned this morning, nature restoration. So we really see a role for agencies like the Environment Agency to collaborate in the future and co-create more solutions leveraging this technology. The possibilities, I think, are endless with this potential.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Carl. And so I think actually that's a very apropos moment to bring in our fifth testimonial. You speak about the value to environmental agencies of being able to leverage this capability, this platform, and its potential. Let's hear a few words from Marimar Alonso, who's the director of the Climate Action Area at EHOBE, the Basque Regional Government's Public Agency of Environmental Management. So can we play Marimar Alonso's tape, please?
EHOBE es la sociedad pública de gestión ambiental del Gobierno vasco. El área de acción climática de la que soy responsable desarrolla una amplia labor en el diseño y despliegue de las herramientas clave para la integración del cambio climático en los instrumentos y políticas territoriales y sectoriales. A partir de nuestra experiencia, consideramos que disponer de una réplica digital de alta resolución de Euskadi ofrecida por Destin Digital Twin supondrá un avance significativo que nos permitirá anticiparnos y predecir los efectos del cambio climático en nuestro territorio. Uno de los objetivos fundamentales de EHOBE es abordar de forma integrada y coordinada la evaluación de efectividad de las medidas de adaptación al cambio climático a diferentes escalas territoriales. Tratamos de ofrecer información climática para la toma de decisiones a corto, medio y largo plazo en ámbitos como la planificación territorial, la salud y la cohesión social. Por ello, consideramos que la posibilidad que nos ofrece Destin de simular distintos escenarios permitirá un despliegue más efectivo de las medidas de adaptación frente al estrés térmico, contribuyendo así a conseguir un mejor futuro para la población vasca.
And I'm sure if we asked lots of other regional environmental agencies, they would be saying much the same thing. One of the things I also appreciate about Marie's video and comments is it doesn't limit itself to the environmental context. Right? She mentions health, security, agriculture, etc. You know, there are so many interconnected parts to this that if this platform works as well as we hope, with the supporting services and the data lake, the benefits, as you say, Carl, they're potentially endless. Okay, so we have just a few minutes left on the panel. So I'm going to ask you guys one final question. It has a couple of parts to it. So you can either choose to answer both or you can focus on one, depending on what makes you most comfortable. But it's basically along the following lines, right? We're now thinking about what comes next. We heard from the first panel some of the concrete milestones and developments. But from a user perspective, as Destiny scales and matures over the next 2-3 years, let's say, what's it going to need to achieve to make a critical difference for your organization and others like you? Right? So that's part number one. And then the second is about its potential impact at a global level. Right? You know, what will it take for the Destiny service platform, the system itself, to start to have an impact beyond European borders and at a global level. Paco, shall we start with you?
Okay, yeah, thank you. For the second one, Destiny, at least the digital twins, in a large part, they are working at the global level. We can see it in the images there. There is a part in the Extremes digital twin that is focusing on Europe, on specific events for Europe, but most of the time, the information, the data that is being generated is at the global scale. And this is very innovative because of the resolutions that we are using. The things that will still need to happen are, for instance, insist a bit more into the operationalization of climate projections. I always talk about the climate TT, and Florence mentioned that aspect a couple of times. It's very important to realize that while weather forecasts, air quality forecasts, observations of the whole system are operational in the sense that there are commitments from the countries to perform those tasks, this is not the case for climate change. It's amazing, it's surprising, but it's not operational. So any country can pull out any time, and there is no compromise at all. And for a problem like the one we are handling here, it's fundamental. It has to go into operations in the World Meteorological Organization sense. It's something that I find really difficult to understand. Making use of the EuroHPC resources, absolutely fundamental. Jo said that we are not the only ones, and she's absolutely right. But we are a community that is very well coordinated, as I always insist to Sergi, and it's a community that is proving that we can make use of the EuroHPC machines in a very coordinated way, using them transparently, regardless of how complex they are. And this is not trivial. And then the use of AI, for instance. Again, I insist on the use of AI for a purpose. So the use of large language models trained on Climate Adapt and many other corpuses that are out there that are underused, that are actually built by those that are interested in answers. And somehow they are at the mercy of the foreign companies that are offering them services of no interest to Europe. So we have the capability to make a change on that field. And the same happens with the training of emulators that can help us to better understand how the climate system works, because we don't understand it. We are looking at these images there. We can see tropical cyclones moving there. Those tropical cyclones are not in the climate simulations that are being used to do decision making, for policy making. We see a tropical cyclone out there, and it's a nice thing to see. It's quite, it's not flashy, but it catches the attention. But it's very important because it tells us now how it extracts energy from the ocean, an ocean that it's at levels of warming unprecedented in our history. So there are lots of challenges and lots of opportunities, I'm afraid.
Wonderful. Well, don't be afraid. Be very positive. That's fantastic. Okay, so we've got 2-3 minutes left. Marianne, quick thoughts from you again on key developments for the next 2 years and global impact.
Thank you very much. First of all, for us working with climate and weather, extreme weather and weather in general on a daily basis, there's basically no frontiers. The globe is where we work, because everyone uses or suffers from used weather, somebody's weather from yesterday. So in our case, the global view is relevant on a daily basis. Secondly, I think now Europe having invented the digital twin, we have a very, very big possibility together in showing the world, and that's probably what the question covers, showing the world how to cope with the changing climate, how to cope with the extreme weather events. And I think we have a good opportunity to do that. But it, of course, depends on our capability of collecting some experience. We are not there yet. And we have to collect experience. We have to, I was mentioning briefly before, we have to get a lot of pilot projects up running to understand how we can work together in the framework of the digital twins. We will have to pick innovative forecasters. Sorry to be very concrete, but I want to show a way to do it. We have to pick some of the very innovative forecasters and put them closely together to the scientists and show leadership in how we can use modern technology, and we would like to do that. Another thing which is a challenge which we should look into, of course, is to continue the policy of open data. Only if we get more and more data, we can develop the twin. Having more and more data, we need more and more computational power. And that's probably the last point from my side, is that the computational power we need in Europe in common is really growing immensely every day. So we have to develop faster, and we have to develop more capacity to make sure that we can develop and collaborate the way we like to and we are able to do.
Thank you, Marianne. Carl, time pressure.
I know I need to be quick. 2 questions.
Say, as punchy as you like. Take one or both.
Yeah, no, I'll be quick. I think for the European Environment Agency and the type of the work that we do, how we'd like to see the digital twins evolving is we want to train the models more and more. So to move beyond the climate modeling and actually model societal impacts from adaptation measures, how society adapts to climate shocks and cascading events. So we really see the value in having these European trained models, because again, it feeds into the credibility of our assessments. Very briefly also, I think the potential of AI, has been mentioned a lot of times, is huge, not only in training the models, but also in making this really accessible to non-experts. We saw some questions flashing up on the screen earlier. Imagine that citizens can go and query that and ask questions about their areas. And I think that's extremely powerful. And for the colleagues who are here, to be able to use augmented reality and see the simulations and the storytelling and really telling a compelling narrative that this isn't just data, this is lives, this is the change to our planet and how we adapt. So I think that's where we would like to see it moving in future. And as Marianne said, just briefly touching on that, climate change doesn't respect borders. And the European approach is great because we've opened data access, but reciprocity is also incredibly important because we sit at a global supply chain, and what happens outside of Europe really knocks on the effect of us in terms of medicine supply, food, healthcare, etc. So I think the future for this initiative is the ambition's high. I think that's right, and the potential's enormous, and I think that we're going to exploit it to the maximum in our work.
A fantastic call for action and very optimistic note on which to end our penultimate panel. So please join me in thanking Paco, Marianne, and Carl. And we will move on to the final panel. Just wanted to step off. Thank you. That was great. Okay, so we're moving on to our last session. And we have had many mentions of AI, which is a happy coincidence because that's the focus of our final session. And again, it's not exclusively about Destination Earth and AI in Destination Earth, but rather the fusion of the two. And again, from a more forward-looking perspective, how can this be an environment that really strengthens and benefits the careers of young researchers who want to work within AI-related technologies? How can this be an environment, a platform, a resource, an ecosystem that provides them with vital support as they navigate their way into the science system and think about a life in research? So, to that end, I'm going to be joined, given it's youthful and new, we're going to do a slightly novel approach in terms of how we run this session. I'm now going to invite the Executive Vice President to come back up and join me as a co-moderator for a discussion with 5 young AI researchers who are in the process of getting their handheld microphones and coming up onto stage. But just to briefly introduce them, we have Marianne Clare from ECMWF, Nicholas Josvig from the University of Helsinki here in Finland, Georgie Mercer from the European Space Agency's Copernicus team, Paulina Tedesco from Met Norway, and Piotr Brzezinski from Poznan University of Technology. So, Commissioner, if you would just like to take the outside chair on this side.
I love that. On
Our
the
young
edge.
guests, please come with us. You may sit wherever you wish. Little round of applause. So basically, this is a very unusual and short form of a PhD viva, right? We're just going to sit here and grill you on your scientific work. But seriously, thank you very much for coming to join us. I should also note that the panelists have also been selected because they're currently involved in significant EU-supported projects. So I think we're going to hear just a teeny bit about that a little later. But essentially, we're going to run through a series of topics, either from myself or from the Commissioner. But before we begin with you guys, I'd also just, I'd like to start with Commissioner Vestager, because I think the fact that we're having this youthful, forward-looking discussion about AI is also links into your legacy of what you've been trying to achieve with your team, with DG Connect and others, to move European leadership forward in AI in the past 5 years. And so before we get into that impact on their lives and careers, can I just ask, what are you most proud of in terms of what Europe has been able to do in the last 4 or 5 years to create an environment for people like these to pursue their careers in AI?
Well, I think it has been underlined basically by anyone who has taken the stage today that, that this is possible because of cooperation. And that getting the people engaged, enthusiastic in investing themselves in this is absolutely key, as it was just said, not trivial. So getting people to work together and showing co-citizens that Europe has what it takes, I think that is really what has been a top priority. Because the problem is that you can have all the hardware you want. If you're not organized to use it in the best possible manner, nothing's going to happen. And it was also underlined today that the biggest obstacle that never materialized was lack of cooperation among so many different parties. And I think that is, if you're asking, well, what is the European model compared to the US and China, this is it. That odd parties, many parties can work together. And that you, as young PhD, you belong to organizations that are in networks with other organizations, that work upstream and downstream with other organizations. And I think that is it. And of course, you need sometimes a catalyst to sort of nurture that passion and imagination. And I think the joint undertaking and the work that has been done to procure these computers and enabling the compute power to be available, I think that sparks the imagination what Europe can produce. And I think that's the important thing, that people always see all the challenges, all the problems, all the crises, but we take our strength so much for granted that we do not realize what it is, sort of the core of the European model, which is its people.
Fantastic. Thank you, Commissioner. And I think, again, without putting too much pressure on you guys, you're supposed to be very optimistic about the future, right? That's also why you're here. So I think, again, what the Commissioner has said regarding our tendency to focus on the challenges, the complexities, and the obstacles, for you, I hope there's a bright vision about the future that awaits you. Now, in that context, we also have an online audience who don't necessarily know who you are or haven't had the chance to meet you in the coffee break. So, unlike perhaps what you've been accustomed to in a university setting, we're going to ask you to do an elevator pitch. 30 seconds to introduce yourself and the work that you're doing to the audience here, but in particular for those online, so we can just put a little bit of a frame about who you are and what you're doing in this field before we get on to the wider panel discussion. So, I'm going to start with Mariana. You have 30 seconds, starting now.
Thank you, Simon. My name is Mariana Clare, and I'm a machine learning scientist working at ECMWF, developing our new AI data-driven weather forecasting model. So imagine, if you will, a model which makes a global weather forecast that is as accurate or as good as current physical models, but it does it in a few minutes. This is exactly what we're developing with our new system, AIFS. And what it's going to do is it's going to mean that we can run thousands of different weather scenarios every day. And why is that important? Well, we need to understand the likelihoods, the probabilities of how these weather events are going to evolve. And I'm sure everyone knows this is particularly important if there's an extreme weather event coming. And I think this is something that's truly novel and really exciting. And I think it's going to have a real benefit to society, or at least I really hope so. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Congratulations, your first pitch. Now, Nicholas Josvig, you're next.
Yes. Hi everyone, my name is Nicholas Josvig. I'm a PhD student at the University of Helsinki. And what we're doing is a lot of computer vision tasks that are close to or also found in the autonomous driving industry. But what is very special about us is that we actually go to the real difficult environments. For example, when you're looking from a car and you see a pedestrian, you can clearly see the silhouette, like it's very unique. But like, what if we're in a UAV? What if we're in the air? Or for example, if you look above you, there's like a crane hanging above you. What if the crane is looking down on us? He will just see like small circles of our heads. But like, these machines also need to be automated to be efficient and like to enable safe machines to operate autonomous. And that's where we are bringing the new AI models to exactly do this in the difficult environments.
All right, fantastic. Next up, Georgie Mercer from ESA. Georgie, sell us your novelty and your brilliance.
Hi everyone, I'm Georgie Mercer, and I have a background in machine learning for environmental science. But right now I'm at the Young Graduate Trainee Program at ESA. I'll be doing my PhD in the next academic year. But right now I'm working on all things data access, so for the Copernicus program and also now for Destination Earth. And what I'm really trying to focus in on is leveraging that data access for AI and using it in the best way possible to propel research in the environmental sciences.
Wonderful. Very good, Georgie. Okay, Paulina Tedesco from Met Norway. Your pitch is yours.
Thank you. My background is in meteorology and machine learning. Like Mariana, I'm working on developing data-driven weather models at the Meteorological Institute, the Norwegian Meteorological Institute. So what we do here, and what is a bit unique, is that we follow a stretch grid approach. And this allows us to run global models, but focusing on our domain and increasing the resolution on that area. And before that, I used machine learning to correct storm surge forecast and also to better understand extreme events that could lead to energy shortages.
Excellent. Okay, Piotr Wyrzyński, last one for you.
Hello, my name is Piotr Wyrzyński, and my current research in neurosymbolic programming, which is a blend of deep neural networks and symbolic AI, represents a significant role in the field of artificial intelligence. This novel approach aims to combine capabilities of deep neural networks, which is pattern recognition, and interpretable nature of symbolic systems. And the potential benefits of such a systems are AI systems that can greatly improve healthcare, for example, with its interpretability and reliability and trustability.
Very good. Thank you, Piotr. And as somebody who studied 17th and 18th century literature, I understood most of what you just said. So congratulations. Very good pitches. Now I'm going to hand over to the Commissioner to carry on with the conversation with you.
Yes, and as you can hear, we have, amazing projects, quite different in perspective, but I think what combines them is your interest for AI. So where does this come from? Why didn't you see how successful you can be if you study Asian literature? So why AI? What led you to take that decision?
Okay, let's start with Marianne. We'll follow the same order as before.
So I think, like a lot of people, I've grown up with the realities of climate change and extreme weather events increasing. And for me, why AI? Well, it was actually more why weather and climate. So this really interested me. How can I get involved in this? And I think that the AI research is really the forefront of the weather and climate field. We literally have developments every week almost. There are so many open questions. There's so many things to explore. I kind of often think maybe this is what it felt like in the 1970s when we were developing the first sort of large-scale global weather models and really starting to understand these processes. So why wouldn't you want to be involved, I think? And I think in the next few years, we're going to see a fully AI model going straight from observations, understanding lots of uncertainties, really predicting extreme events, trying to understand their risks. And yeah, why wouldn't you want to be involved, I think, is my answer.
Yes, so for me, my passion for AI is really like in the field of computer vision, because it's just so fascinating, because of course humans are very visual oriented, and like to make the computer also understand the same things that we see is very, like that inspired me. And of course it's like so much potential, like from looking at medical images for cancer detection, or from autonomous driving, like there is so much possibility. And also in the future, then when we can combine such things with other, like a clever car or like a clever vehicle, if we can combine that with like a clever traffic light, with intelligent cities, we have like so much possibility there to unlock with computer vision and the combination of these systems. And that's really great, I think.
So I also started off in the environmental sciences. I was passionate and wide-eyed. I wanted to save the planet. And then I kind of transitioned into data science and machine learning, because I could kind of see how much data we have and how little some of it is turned into information that we need to use for climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts. So for me, it was kind of, AI has a lot of really untapped potential in the climate sciences, and I really wanted to get into that field. Also, AI is a very dynamic field, and it develops super fast. And that's why it's very collaborative and so exciting to see how quickly things can change and how much we need community to really tap into that change.
Yes, I think I followed the same path. I started in meteorology and then was interested in artificial intelligence. And I think that what actually made me start working on AI was its potential to improve weather forecasts. AI can sift through years of data detecting patterns and relationships that a human eye could not detect. But what is actually fascinating is that we have not determined yet what the limits or the boundaries of machine learning are. And there are no strict guidelines on how we are supposed to use it, so there's plenty of room for creativity and investigate what these boundaries are. And then I would also add that I think AI is like a democratization tool, because once you have trained your models, made them available, anyone could run a forecast on their own laptops without needing access to any HPC system.
So I started as a mathematics student, and I don't have anything bad to say about the mathematics, but when I learned about artificial intelligence and how it can solve like complex problems and influence many fields of science and how it can augment human capabilities and how AI really can change our lives, that's what really inspired me and motivated me, and I'm really passionate about when I work in this field.
Could I start over again? Just to have a second go. I'm a really boring economist, and the coding language I learned back in the days has been long forgotten. So really fascinating. Now, with the potential that you're showing, what should we do to keep you here in Europe? Do we need to, get you married as soon as possible with someone who's really, really grounded, or what will it take? Because as I just said, all the achievements that we've seen today, they come from people, and people need to like to work here in order to make the best use of their talent. Should we go the other way around this time? Pietro, would you start?
Sure. Yeah, of course, when I hear this question, first thing that comes to my mind is, of course, funding for our research. That's a very important thing, but also the platform to, because of, like, in our field, of course, we have to have a lot of computational resources, like here in LUMI. And that's, of course, also very important in our study. And of course, I think that also policymakers can help us by ensuring some data privacy regulations, promoting ethical AI, and facilitating partnership between industry and academia. And I think this step will help retain talents and strengthen European leadership in AI.
Yes, so I think that many of the ideas that I have already been discussed before during the panels. But of course, these data-driven models, they have become possible because there are more sophisticated algorithms. We have access to computational resources, access to accelerators. But crucially, we have open, free, and reliable data sets that we can use to train our models, and open and free software. And for instance, Met Norway has long had an open data policy, and I think that this aspect has improved globally. But still, in the case of my research at least, data has been a limitation for the scope of my research. So this is something that we can improve. And then we have also talked a bit about this leap in data-driven models that have been driven by big technology companies. So I think that investing in research and providing solid funding opportunities and environments where research can collaborate can really make Europe take the lead in this field. And I'm very happy to see that Met Norway has committed to do this, and they are providing clear career pathways for young scientists and supporting us. And it's really a privilege to be a young scientist and be able to work in this new field, and that they trust us and that we have their back and their experience. So that's impressive. So what I would like to see is more countries following this example so that we can create an international network for collaboration.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that efforts towards access to high quality and safe data are what really would drive AI research. We only have to look into the past. We saw that the deep learning revolution that happened was really based on the boom in big data, and that's what really drove AI forwards. Of course, today in Kajaani, we are seeing these great computational resources, and of course we need this. But at the end of the day, it's really the quality of the input data that determines the quality of the output data in models. And enabling access to this data in a secure way is definitely the key, and something we need to stay ahead in Europe because, yeah.
Yes, I mean, of course, I agree with what has been said. Data is crucial, and I think also, for example, when data is provided from, for example, public institutions, it also really encourages the collaborations between the AI, the computer science, maths, etc., and like stakeholders and domain experts. But yeah, also an additional point I want to add is that I think it's really important that also the AI entrepreneurship is supported so that like the transition from yeah, from like projects in academia, for example, during a PhD, that it is easier and like that there's lower barriers to turn it into a product and really innovate, because I think we all know that like we're in a very crucial area where like a lot of AI innovation can happen, and there's a lot of potential, and like to really capitalize on that we need startups, we need new innovations, and that should be really encouraged.
So I agree with everything everyone says. I agree it's an investment in development of people and their training, investment in HPCs. Euro HPC has been crucial for our work at ECMWF, and data sets. But I'd like to highlight, which was touched on a little bit, also ethical AI. And it was actually touched on a lot in the previous panel, people talking about how we don't just want flash in the pan technology, we want sustainable development. And I think maybe this is a call for policymakers like you to think about how we can encourage sustainable development to make sure that this continues, this rise, I think.
Well, very good. Thank you very much. I really like this idea that everyone can do that. You know, you have your confirmation upcoming in 2 years' time, and you really need to know what Sunday to choose. But I think you put a lot on your models for people to start trusting that. When we look at systems like this, what should be sort of the social contract? Because we're making predictions. And if I make a reservation for a certain site for my wedding anniversary in 5 years' time, and it's absolutely crucial that the sun is shining because it's outdoor, will you pay the contractor if I have to cancel? Or what is the contract here? Because we're talking about AI that can predict stuff, and as you said, depending on data quality, what should people expect when it comes to predictability? What kind of assessment should we develop as policymakers, but also as citizens, in order to see what is this really? How much can we trust the crane actually to realize that it's a human being down under it, so it really shouldn't let go of whatever cargo it's carrying?
Yes, of course. Well, that's absolutely critical, and or in the first place, how we're approaching this is to have fail-safe systems, essentially. Like, of course, in some things, like just detecting humans, AI is already very good. But like then it still needs to do all these other tasks of thinking like, where am I, where's the crane, what belongs to me? So it's like a very hard problem. And of course, in the first place, we're trying to get around this by fail-safe systems, for example, lasers that check the area so that there's no collisions. But of course, in the future, we're working on having more explainability in the models so that, for example, before it executes a move, for example, I move to the left, that it like explicitly states why it's moving to the left or which path in the future it wants to take. And yeah, I think this is like a fundamental challenge, because such things need to be millimeter precise in reality. And like getting there is a very far away. That's why we do this research. Like this is like far in the future till we get with certainty and explainability to this point. But yeah, that's why we need this research right now.
Excellent. Anyone else who wants to comment on this?
I think I would just say from a weather perspective, that's the contract. I mean, our weather models at the moment, we kind of have that contract already, so it's not really too new, I think. From a weather perspective, maybe. We don't claim that we can predict things with certainty 10 days in advance. So yeah, I think it's more like Nicholas said, for cars and for new developments. Yeah.
Anyone else? Because it's a real thing, I can tell you, as Marianne just said here on stage, if the forecasters, if they get it wrong, you know, people, they really complain, really badly.
Yeah, maybe it will be something like, until we get our AI so good that you can really rely on, we need to keep like a reserve of umbrellas or something.
Exactly. No, that's a good point. If I may pick up some of the things that I think you all underline, sort of, you have come into this area because of an interest not only of the technology, but also environment, sustainability, climate change. And you say it's important to work in an environment where there is an ethical approach to artificial intelligence. How does that reflect in your own work? Because, you know, our AI legislation actually do not touch research and innovation. It's for the use cases where we sort of say, here we really need to know that our European value like non-discrimination is upheld. But research, not that many restrictions. And if you hear some of the runaway employees from, for instance, OpenAI, they say they don't really care about security anyway. So how does this reflect? Do you think that your own preference for ethical use of AI and sustainability is a barrier to your research, or is it enhancing what you want to do?
I don't think it's a barrier, but it's something we have to be aware of, and we have to know the limitations. And for instance, in the case of the data that we feed our models, there might be biases or representativeness issue. So we have to be aware of this when we run our models, and also be transparent about the data and the methods that we use, explain the limitations, and then also follow strict validation techniques. So for instance, compare against observations, compare against the physical models, so that we show actually what we are modeling.
Yeah, I think it's also in academia like a very strong trend that because most AI is not explainable, that to make sure that like things are ethical and like it's always requested that tests are run on all kinds of things, so like all environments, all kind of input to just like make sure as good as possible that it is behaving in also in critical, like when there's something on the line, like that is behaving also in these cases. So that's very often requested now in academia. And of course, that's also a thing why we need a lot of data, why we also need so much compute. And then we're back at LUMI again.
Which is a good place to be. Mariana.
Yeah, I was just going to say I agree with this, but there's also the aspect of equal access, I think, that's important. And it's actually something that AI models can bring. I can't remember which panelist mentioned earlier about you can now maybe run these models on your laptop. And so that's also an important part of ethical AI, having open models and equal access, and allowing, you know, everyone in the globe to come with us on this AI weather forecasting journey, or self-driving car journey as well.
If I may add something to that, I see this problem. I see it as like another problem that we need to solve, but I don't see it like as something that blocks us. Like I think like some people are saying that we shouldn't create specific systems because they can be harmful. I think we should more put more effort into researching how we can prevent it, because if we are only like restricting systems such as that, maybe someone, and I'm afraid it will happen, someone will create such a systems, and we won't be able to prevent it.
Yeah, Paulina, would you want to add something? Okay, yeah, but maybe you become inspired.
Well, one thing that comes to my mind related to what Mariana was saying is that open source code and data is a way of letting others actually see what you have done, find bugs if there is any, and then continue to improve and ensure that what we are doing has a high quality.
Yeah, just to leverage on that. I really think that anything that is restrictive in terms of ethical AI will also, at the same time, increase the trust that people have in AI. And this is maybe more importantly than having just exponential growth in research, that people really trust and are not scared of AI.
is really touching, you know. One should have thought that we actually wrote the speaking points, but we've not, because that exactly is the main idea behind the AI Act, to say that if you treat data and your algorithm in a responsible manner, you will trust it, and because if you trust it, you will actually use it. Otherwise, you just keep it at an arm's length, and then you can control nothing, basically, also literally. Now, so you're young scientists in a field that develops, as you all underlined, really, really fast. What kind of further support or platforms would you need, except for older scientists to get out of your way, in order to make good of your ideas and your talent, and how to make sure that it has societal impact? Now, you're holding the mic, Georgia. Maybe you should just start.
Yeah, I think an interesting space to watch there is the communication of science, because I think a lot of people in the machine learning field, they use platforms to communicate their science and to really show their research that other people might not be very aware of. And in general, scientists, they aren't trained in marketing usually. And in climate science, it's so important that people are able to communicate their findings, because it's a field that people need to know about. And I think having platforms and support to really communicate this not only to other researchers in the community, but also to the public, so people understand what we are doing, is very important and might be crucial to development in this field.
I think one of the things that's also useful is the things like the Destiny platform, and having, like we talked about, this interactivity with the chatbot, and having sort of a free stream, a co-design between developers and users. That's really useful for us, especially as you saw, most of us don't come from one field, it's interdisciplinary. So we want to learn from other researchers, but also users, policymakers. And so I think having these open platforms with open communication, co-design is really important for our careers in sustained research.
Yes, I also believe that communication is key, not only with the users, but among researchers which have different backgrounds, and also between researchers and stakeholders. And as you said, this digital twin can be a platform where we can conduct common research or analysis and learn from each other. And then also it will be great to have, for instance, some workshops where we can discuss and come up with fresh ideas and maybe push the boundaries of our research, and yes, communicate with people from other institutions. I think that is key. Yeah.
Okay. I completely agree with what's been said. I only would like to add to that also it's crucial to think about how AI will influence our careers as researchers. And because we see that AI influence a lot of fields, creating new fields, new space for like interdisciplinary research. And I think because of that, our careers also will be influenced by the research.
Yes, I have one more point to add, maybe that like the EU should also continue like they are doing now. Of course, they have this Erasmus program to facilitate the exchange between academic or like all kinds of institutions, and like expand that, or even or expand it more towards the more senior researchers, so that really you can like the countries can exchange, because of course what applies to Finland applies also in most parts to other countries, and therefore the exchange, I think, is really important, that the funding is there to facilitate this.
Well, thank you very much for this. Simon, do you want to come in on this?
I will.
You see that I've done his job here. So maybe we could ask Simon to do the summarizing. No? Well, the floor is yours.
Now that was just being mean. No. I'm happy to take a stab at that. But But I think it's also important, we have one final question, which we prepared before, which is to sort of connect these broader discussions back to Destination Earth, which is also why we're here today. And at the risk of exclusion, this is going to be a question for Mariana, for Paulina, and Georgie, because it is, again, connecting this question of the AI revolution. Also, what we heard in the last panel, Paco Doblas in particular, said the use of AI with purpose is going to be a critical success factor for the future. So the AI revolution offers huge potential for weather and climate-related challenges. And I wonder, as young researchers, how do you think it's going to help us develop the kind of novel Earth system information systems that are going to allow us to manage these climate and weather-related trends and risks better going forward? And in particular, how is it going to support the kind of services and platform that Destination Earth is offering? Okay, so how do you see that connection developing in the next few years of your career? Georgie, would you like to go first?
So all data surrounding climate is often really, really high in dimension and in complexity. So I think AI can be really powerful in trying to reduce that dimensionality and turning this data into information that we can really use. For example, if we try to go from variables like pressure and temperature into calculating indices for risk, this is something that people understand and that people can use other than climate-related variables. Also, for example, the use of LLMs for large language models to query data. This is another big thing that's going to come up and really make this data understandable and usable for not only policymakers and decision makers, but also for the public. And AI is going to enable these processes in a scalable way. I think these things were usually done in the past by humans, but this is impossible to do on the scale that we have data today, especially climate data. So basically, not everyone needs to be a climate scientist, but everyone is going to need to understand climate data to a certain extent. And I think this is really the way that we can use AI paired with the models that we are making to bring that to everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you, Georgie. Paulina, would you like to go next?
Yes. Well, so Earth system, information system, they integrate data from various sources at different time scales, at different spatial scales. And this helps us better understand the complexity of Earth systems. By integrating AI, we can develop more user-friendly platforms, boost interactivity, but AI can also be used to synthesize the data, as you were mentioning, to analyze, to extract patterns, to interpret this vast amount of data that we have, for instance, in a digital twin. And ultimately help us make better decisions and also benefit society, make it more resilient, better prepared for all kinds of weather events. And I think that this is particularly relevant now that the climate crisis is amplifying. And we need to address so many challenges like food security, water security, extreme events, all what we have been mentioning, like transition to renewables, air quality. So there are so many purposes, actually, in this that I really think we need to start integrating machine learning in this. And when it comes to uncertainty, what we at METNOE envision that we are going to use AI for is to quantify the uncertainty through ensembles. And how are we going to do this? Well, the idea is that when you run a data-driven model, this is cheap and run faster compared to the physical models. So we can create them on demand when we need them for research purposes. And we don't really need to store the full history like we do now with numerical models. And then I think that these digital twins, we can use them as a testbed where we compare the different members. And in the case of climate projections, you can also compare different scenarios and how they impact the different Earth system components.
Fantastic, thank you. And last but by no means least, Mariana.
So I think Georgie and Paulina have both touched on basically all the important points. But I just wanted to emphasize, just bring it back to Destiny. At ECMWF, we're working on developing an AI system model. And as Paulina just said, this really can enable us to understand uncertainty. So the idea, we hope, would be that we could go right from when the storm is starting to evolve, let's say, all the way to the real-world impact of the flooding that's happening on people's doorsteps, and understanding the risks, understanding the likelihoods of these events happening, and allowing decision makers to make decisions in time to have an impact. And that's something that AI models will help us to do, because at the moment we're limited to running 50 scenarios, but we can maybe run thousands of scenarios with AI models with a fraction of the computational cost. So I think it could have a real-world impact.
Okay. Thank you so much to all of you for sharing these experiences, for having the courage to come up here and just speak openly, right, about your hopes and dreams. I know it's not quite like the university setting with this level of audience, but we really appreciate everything that you've shared this afternoon. And ladies and gentlemen, that basically brings us to the end of the conference. We have a couple of practical things before we move to thanks. First and foremost, for people who are leaving this evening, if you're taking a flight from Kajaani Airport, please mobilize at 5:30. It's going to take you a while to get your coat and bag, because the bus will leave from outside at 5:45. Okay? So get ready at 5:30, downstairs 5:45. For those leaving from Oulu, 15 minutes later. You get your stuff, 5:45, downstairs at 6. That means you'll get to the airport on time. Okay? So for those of you who want to get home this evening, please keep those times in mind. It's pretty fundamental. The Commissioner asked me to do a quick sum up. It's been a huge and rich set of discussions today. It really has been enormously impressive. First of all, thanks to all of the partners, for the Commission representatives who've been here, and in particular for all of the people who've been involved in making this day a reality, let alone Destination Earth. The 2.5 months of record planning to make the conference happen is kind of a microcosm of the 2.5 years to get Destination Earth up and running. But for all of the colleagues at ESA, at EUMETSAT, at ECMWF, and in particular our hosts here at CSC, a huge thank you for everything that you've done to make this such a wonderful event and a very welcoming atmosphere for us all. So, quick round of applause, please. Second, of course, a big thank you to those of us who've been joining the proceedings online today. It's never easy to follow these extended events through a small screen, but I hope that for those of you who've invested the time to follow these discussions, it's been a very rewarding and stimulating and thought-provoking set of discussions, and hopefully the next time that we do this in person, you will be here in person as well to make the most of the networking opportunities and to meet many of the people who've been speaking here and otherwise participating today. So, above all, we hope this is the first of many such celebrations to come, whether it's an annual anniversary of the launch, or a multi-annual, or an MFF for Destination Earth, remains to be seen. But the most important thing is that it exists, it moves forward. And I think what we've heard from our discussions today is first and foremost implementation. Right? The journey so far has been remarkable, but now the proof is in the pudding. So implement, 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 building up the use cases, building up the evidence of the value that Destination Earth is going to deliver to different stakeholders, be they government agencies, SMEs, startups, scientific institutes, other kinds of public agencies. This is making a case for large-scale, coordinated European investment in research and innovation. And as we enter some uncertain times regarding budget for the next MFF, regarding technology priorities and so forth, this is the kind of flagship initiative that can make a compelling case to policymakers at multiple levels that this delivers value. This is a priority for Europe, it's a priority for member states, for regions, for municipalities, and for citizens. So I think in that context, there's so much to build on. The model of cooperation that Thomas spoke out so eloquently earlier today. The sense of partnership, the model of co-creation and development, the speed at which you've been able to do it because you focused on the details to get the foundations right, the level of ambition that follows, right? Make sure in 5 years it is the 500 meters that Florence was talking about. Make sure it's 500. Make it 250 or 50. Set the barriers or set the bar high and see how close you can come to achieving that. And above all, cherish the spirit of trust that you built between the institutions. The faces and the names and the titles may change, but the institutional relations are the glue that will hold this initiative together, and I think give you an unbelievable formula to build on what's already been achieved and do magnificent things in the years to come. So I hope you all remember that there are people behind this, not just the people who do the science, but the people who manage the relationships. And if that partnership remains strong, Destination Earth has a great future ahead for it. And so, last but not least, I would like to also acknowledge the role of EuroHPC, because I think one of the other key takeaways for me today is the importance of having a connecting body that links the European aspirations, the European agenda, with those of member states and the national agendas, being able to somehow coalesce to bring these different actors along on a unified journey with a fairly singular vision. That's an incredibly rare accomplishment. So, as the Commission, the next Commission, I should say, thinks about how to build on the success of Destination Earth, these are some of the key ingredients that I hope they will look to replicate and put in place for future digital twins or future flagships of this nature. So those are my key takeaways. I'm sure you will all have plenty of time to reflect on everything you've heard today. We do so immediately with a little networking reception that will take place just here in the foyer. And I'm sure that this will be very rich sources of discussion for you and your colleagues in the months to come. So thank you again for being here. Thank you to CSC for a wonderful hosting job. And we look forward to seeing you at a future Destination of Earth event in the not too distant future. Safe travels. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye. And of course, a thank you to our last panel. I forgot to say that before, but so we wish you all the very best. Come and have a drink. Come and talk to the old fogies. And thank you again for being here.